So I only see a couple faces that are new. The rest of you all are people that I have had the wonderful pleasure of learning from for years. And so we're going to do quick introductions instead of telling your deepest, darkest secret TV show that you watch that you don't want anybody to know about. For those of you that remember that episode, we'll just do it quick and dirty. So let's get names. Name of your LEA, for those of you that are new to that term, local education agency, which means either a district or a charter. Trying to use the term LEA so we make sure everybody knows. Charters are public schools, just like our traditional districts are public schools. So you'll hear me say LEA all the time. I'm talking about all y'all, okay? Private schools are actually invited to this, and for a little bit had Mark Long coming for one of them. And so I'm going to be a little more active involving them and trying to get them here because I'm sure they have things to add. And they've been asking a lot of questions too, so we'll see what happens with that. But so name, LEA, and what you do specific to mentoring, not the 32 and a half other hats that you wear, okay? Because I know all y'all do. I don't care how big your LEA is. I know you've got more responsibility than just this. So not like superintendent or anything. People more than drive the bus and teach a class and run a principal. Take secretary's job when she leaves. Anyway, name, LEA, and what you do for mentoring, okay?
I'm Lisa Harrison. My LEA is Utah County Academy of Sciences, or UCAS, and I am the new teacher mentor and licensing specialist besides other things.
I'm Jana Neville, Washington County, St. George, and I was going to say I'm the EYE mentor coordinator, but I realize we have a new name. I don't know what it is.
We don't have a new name. We are mentors.
You need to pick a name.
The people that help us develop the training modules will help decide if we need to have a name for it.
I'll just call it EYE from now on.
Oh. So, no. I'm just glad everybody, and more people are moving EYE instead of I. Yeah. Anyway, sorry.
I don't know what else I'm supposed to say.
That's great.
Okay, great.
We all know Dana and all the awesome things she does.
I'm Megan Langford from Nebo School District, and I am over special education mentoring.
Rachel Amelia with Nebo as well. I work with Kim Christensen, who's not here, and we're over mentoring mentors.
Sent me a text that she has migraine.
She does.
Nice. Know what she's stepping in with that, so we'll let her have the day.
I'm Mary Ann Bunn from Grand County and the Moab area, and the EYE mentor coordinator / instructional coach of both the high school and the middle school.
I'm Patch Twilla, new teacher mentor. Twilla.
Oh, wait. Oh, superintendent, let's go to the left.
Superintendent Northcott from Daggett School District.
Ashley Addis from Patch School District. I'm an instructional coach for secondary and our teachers, but then
This is a great questions of you today. I have this really cool idea. I have more things to do. Part of the success of my daughter in high school, she was falling apart in middle school, and Debbie was her facts teacher and was that one adult that cared about her. She wasn't sure her parents did, so she knew for sure she did have someone, and that was life-changing for her. So, for me, Amy.
Amy Wood. I'm Jordan District also. I'm also a mentor teacher specialist.
You mentor the instructional coaches. Gotcha. Okay.
Braxton Bateman, principal of Canal Middle School. I'm also over mentoring. Over, I'm over Cactus, Title IX, all that. I'm new to this. So.
You know what? We have other newbies, and on a regular basis, so it's all good. And ask all the questions that you want, because even those of us that have been at it for a while have questions too. So, Robert.
Robert Cox, Carbon School District Director of Human Resources, and have been assigned to get us going. Leaving just as soon as we get it going.
He's retiring, and he didn't ask my permission, so I'm gonna have to talk with his wife. He'll have your daughter do my nails, and I can talk her into.
Yeah, I'm going to Kansas now. I heard you talk about your daughter, I think it was your daughter in the military, her husband is in Johnson City, Kansas, he's in the military. He decided he got tired of flying helicopters and he's now a tank operator.
Well, that's what my daughter decided too. She wants to be a combat medic. She hasn't even been in the field yet, but then she wants to move to not paratroopers, not what they're called anymore. But she wants to go into that too now.
Another son-in-law who was a field medic, so.
Crazy people. I don't know what we do with that. I don't know. And I don't know where she got crazy. I have no idea where that came from. All right, so you have a familiar face and a brand new face. Cassidy is coming down to save my bacon today because, as you know, we've been in between and in and out of assistance with our team for educator effectiveness. The last gal that was here, Crystal, you guys all ran her off. She left 2 days after our meeting, and so no, it wasn't you. It wasn't you. And so we've been without until Monday. Yeah, Monday. And so Cassidy is here helping our new person, Tim. Would you prefer Timothy? I always.
Timothy's great. You know, I'm going to tell my life. I like Timothy now.
All right, Timothy it is. Timothy's very talented in many areas musically. And he has been working here as a temp, helping out in licensing, getting some things done. He's been here for about 90 days doing that. The man's on time, the man's dependable, the man will learn anything that you put in front of him.
I'm not. Everything I'm not.
And so we're super lucky and excited to have him on the team. Don't run him off, please. I need him here and somebody's gonna be around. Okay, so take it easy on him. So welcome, Timothy. We're glad you're here. For those of you that are new, you know from my emails, I'm Jeannie. I've been here in February, it'll be 14 years. It explains the mental condition that I'm in. This is one of many positions I have, just like you do, and it's one of my favorites, for sure. I've kind of shifted my focus in the team just because I can do that after you've been there for a while, you know. I created every job I've had in this building, so why not do another one, right? More toward, and many of you have heard this, teacher recruitment and retention, and so I feel that mentoring is both of those. It's a great recruitment tool for those new teachers that you're trying to bring in and showing them the support they'll get right off the bat, and then the retention is just absolutely mandatory for those first 3 years. We are one of 8 states left that have, well, let me change that. 18 have it in, have mentoring required. We are one of 8 that has it for more than 2 years. So that means there's 10 that say 2 years or less, you know, 1 or 2, or one of 8 that say 3. All the research, as you guys saw last time, if you were here, says we need to get that 3rd year in to really see student achievement affected. Get to that next level, it's critical we maintain that 3rd year. So I'm absolutely thrilled that our board and the legislature saw the need for it, and it's still in the licensing rule, as you've all heard, but may need to hear again and again and again for a little while. We're not going to spend a whole lot of time on licensing today. We're going to let that get settled in a little bit. We'll still talk about it, answer some questions, but it will not be a big focus like it has been on the last couple of meetings, because we've got a lot of things that are going to be taking place right in January and start filtering in. Super important questions will not be ignored. Okay, if we've got burning issues that we have to have answered and that you just need to know way before then we'll handle those for sure. I'm not blowing you off. I'm not putting you back. We just won't make it a general topic, okay? So many people, and 38 out of a typical 65 that participate in one way or another. So a little more than half, or a little less than half, I don't know. Definitely was not a math person growing up. 38 people responded, which is absolutely fabulous. If you did not see the link to the coordinator email in the email to do the invite, I created my very first bit.ly, and not only is it a bit.ly, but it is a personalized bit.ly that's easy to remember. It's www.bit.ly/mentorcord. So anybody can find it at any time if you didn't have the opportunity to see it there. I was so excited. Don't just know anything. You guys did amazing. The information you gave was absolutely incredibly helpful. I appreciate the honesty, the frankness that came with it. I appreciate the support and recognizing the things that are working, and we'll kind of break that down so you can all hear what each other said. So with that, partly based on some of the comments we've had, also based on the number of people that I got the phone calls and the emails from. I didn't go to bed last night because I kept tweaking this. You know how I do it. And so I was still answering emails and answering texts at 2 o'clock this morning. And people are just they're sick. We've got so much going on out there. So because of some of the comments that were coming in and because of the small numbers that we have, we're going to skip the research paper. the research that we would have normally looked at. It is not empirical research. It is not anything of super scientific nature. It's very informative, and I will send the document out to you. In fact, it's kind of not really fair to call it research. It's more of a white paper based on some work that the New Teacher Center and others. So I will send that to you later, and you may do with it as you wish. So we're going to skip ahead and that part. So that was going to be the first one. The next one is talking about the rule. You're going to have to remind me. Also, a few days after our last meeting, I took leave for about 6 weeks. And there were a lot of things that happened just before that that I can't even remember. And so in this meeting, did you take the surveys? I know did I bring up the links and we were having problems with them, with the exit and the engagement surveys, or did we even try it?
I'll put the surveys for you.
You did take it. Okay, so then that was incorporated. All right. The reports that have been shared with the legislature and our board then would have incorporated your responses as well in looking at it. Then we had the Hope Street Fellow as well. Sarah Young and I are kind of doing this together, and she had the Hope Street Fellows kind of look at responses that had been taken, ways questions were answered, gave us some feedback, some things were changed. We're still in draft mode on that. But this new rule is exciting and very, very, very pertinent to this work. This is going to give us such great information. It's going to take us a couple years to get anything of significance, but I'm really excited about it. So in front of you, you have the most recent rule version of it, and it was passed as it is here last board meeting, or in October, or beginning of November, excuse me. Is there anybody that I didn't get that to? So, yes,
The virtual
Are they there?
attendees, yeah,
okay.
they are there. The handouts and everything that you're giving them, are they available?
Welcome those of you in virtual world. Quickly to I don't know what you heard and what you didn't hear, but due to comments from the survey as well as our extremely high rate of people that had to jump virtual versus face-to-face, we're going to skip looking at the study that we were going to look at. So I will be sending that handout to everybody electronically, so you're not missing anything there. As far as this rule, I have it on my computer, and while people are looking at it, I can send it to you and you can post it for them.
I will.
And I can do the same thing with the, we'll at least get that too.
Yep.
That's the only handout today,
Okay, cool.
okay, is this. So we'll get the rule to you. For those of you that are familiar with rule out in virtual land, you can always go to the board's website and look at their documentation from the last board meeting. I can find things there. If you need help learning how to surf that, and let me know, because I love this stuff. You give me rule, you give me legislation, any of that, all day long, and I will read and study, and the sickness, I guess. All right. So, for those of you that are new to rule, very quickly, I will explain to you that what is seen, as you can see, all the different colors of drafts up at the top left-hand corner. We've got different colors. So draft one was all in black. And for those that are out, you can actually do a Google search for R277, 325, and you'll be able to find this online that way as well. Anyway, so first version was black, and then it's gone back and forth quite a bit. To give you a little bit of background, this was passed by the legislature last session by Carol Spackman Moss. She's a former teacher that is a representative and is on the education intern committee. At least she was for the last, I don't know, however many years. I don't know if she is anymore. Anyway, huge education advocate. It took her 2 years to get the bill through. She wanted an exit survey, and that's what the law is about, is an exit survey. You'll see here, this is exit and engagement. I'll explain that in just a second. She wanted to see why are educators leaving. Like I said, she was an educator for years. She understands what we live and wants to find out what's happening out there. It's something that we've wanted to do for a very long time, but it's difficult to do at a state level without having some teeth behind it. Hence, the legislature was able to help that. So we started designing this exit survey to say, hey, why are you going? And we started working with some expert consultants on developing these types of surveys, kind of in an HR mode, and found out if you only ask why they're leaving, you have nothing to compare it to. You need to have baseline data of what's going on, who's there, why they're staying, why they may be moving. We've talked before about that have been analyzed by the Utah Education Policy Center, UEPC, 2008 cohort. If I'm talking Greek, it's okay. Nothing's there that is earth-shattering, and they're doing one more administration of their survey this fall, and then a lot of the questions that we included in this one are a takeoff from that, so we can continue that longitudinal data gathering. So we're excited to have those data. Anyway, in order to find out why people are leaving, they can tell you all kinds of, they can rate something, let's say we were rating it from a 1 to a 10, and they could rate a whole bunch of things at 2. Well, you might have a majority of your teachers in that same school, or that same LEA that rated as 4. Really that bad if the others are saying 4 out of 10. But do you get what I'm saying there? That's a really simplified version of why we're doing it. So we have an exit and an engagement survey. These are required for the LEAs to send them out. It is not required for teachers. That's for 2 reasons. 1, legally it's kind of a problem. 2, people that are leaving sometimes don't want to say anything. And the last thing you want to do is give them more of a bad taste in their mouth by forcing them to do something, telling them they have to fill out a survey and tell you why they're leaving if they're not comfortable. All of these are anonymous. We are not allowed, nor do we want to, ask for names, cactus numbers. We do ask for the LEA name, only so the districts and charters can get their information. When this information comes back to the state, it also goes directly to the district from which it was originated, so that districts get an automatic, real-time feedback on the data from their own teachers. We get aggregate at LEA level, and it may or may not be at the aggregate level for you. They would be smart to just give it to you at the individual teacher so that you know you may get down to the school possibly. So this data comes here. We'll have a big dashboard online. You know, dashboards, we do dashboards for everything. And every time I say dashboard, I think of the movie John Q. Has anybody seen that movie with Denzel Washington? Dashboard. When the wife is trying to talk, you know, when they're in the cab of the truck, and yeah, every time I say dashboard, that's what I think of. Anyway, hello, Michelle. Rebecca. I always say Rebecca. I've known her forever. Anyway, there'll be a dashboard statewide so that people can see generally in the aggregate what's going on, both engagement-wise and exit. The engagement survey will be offered for every other year. The exit survey is to be given to and requested by teachers leaving upon their time of departure. So that may be middle of the year, that may be at the end of the year, but that's when it will be requested from them. There is a school climate survey that was also put into law and to rule. That will be the other year. And so that way we're trying to avoid as much survey fatigue as we can. And LEAs can add their own questions to these. So when they want to give their surveys at the end of the year and they want more information, they can say, all right, well, here's the ones from the state that we have to have answered. And they're not necessarily going to be identified unless people feel we're being secretive. But they can add their own if there are some certain things they want to know about their own LEA initiatives, retentions, those types of things. And so, and that information only goes to the LEAs. The only thing that comes to us is what we ask for that's required. We have minimum standards. There are about 7 or 8 questions on both surveys that are things that we can make a difference in. And that was one of the things that fed into when you all took those surveys and when we had the Hope Street group look at it and when the consultants and looked at it, we only asked questions that could have actionable response. And ask how you like the cafeteria food in your building, because we can't control that. It's just like when you're doing professional learning, don't ever ask everybody if they like the temperature of the room, because you can't do anything about it. So if you're not going to do anything about the feedback you get, then you might as well not ask, because you're going to lose their trust, right? So we only want things that we can do something about. So that's the background of what this is. We also have a contract now with Qualtrics. Many of you have used Qualtrics for other reasons, other purposes. The state is now paying. We have from this point in the year until the end of this school year, and then the full next year, contract covered for everybody. Now, because the legislature is seeing the need for retention, they haven't quite seen recruitment yet, but we'll get them there. When they're seeing that, our board is getting very, very talented and well-versed in writing business cases. This is why we want the money. It's not just because we want it. It's not just because this is a new program that, somebody's pet project. Here's the research. Here are the gains. We have to, we don't have to. We provided a spot where we say, if we don't do this for the LEAs, these are the risks. Here's what happens if we do the status quo. And it's honest, sometimes doing the status quo is going to be okay. But our board is super, super great with that. And so we've been very, very fortunate in getting the vast majority of the funding we've asked for, because we're able. So I cannot promise that that contract will continue, and promise that this method will continue, and hopefully we won't have to go down to something as unreliable or invalid as SurveyMonkey or Google Forms, but we'll figure out something in order to get that information from them. So there was a group that we worked with a few days ago. That's what they focused on almost the whole time to begin with. What if the contract ends, then what, then what? And right now, we don't want you to focus on that. We want you to just focus on what the out of it, and we'll work really hard to keep things sustained. Remember, I told you guys when I first started this particular work in 2011 that the teaching standards weren't going to change. They haven't changed, and guess what? They're not going to anytime soon, because we have feedback from the field saying these are great, they're working, and just because other people are changing doesn't mean we need to. So we'll make sure that this is covered. I got your back there, right? All right. You know how I control all of that. So back to the rule. Everything in black was the original draft. Draft 2, you can see any changes that were made were added in blue. Now this doesn't really matter, but I just, for those of you that need or want to understand how this goes, it goes to the board committee. They take a look at it and they say, oh yeah, we like that. Oh no, can't do that. Lots of discussion. It doesn't matter which draft, anything that was crossed out automatically is red. So it doesn't say that each time. So first draft is blue, second draft is usually green. Yep. Draft 4 is brown. And so everything now, as you see it, is what is approved. It still has to go through the Division of Administrative Services, public comment, but we've pretty much taken care of that. And we usually know that if we don't have a request for an appeal by a group of people out there that want to come in and have some pretty sharp things to say about this, that we're not feeling like there's too much of an issue. So some of the things I want to point out to you on definitions, this was something that people were wondering as far as educator. So who has to do this, right? Or who has to receive the opportunity to do this? And so we're talking general education. This is all in section 2 underneath definitions, so you can see there who that is. The people that it does not say in here does not mean that the LEA can choose not to ask those people to do that. It's just that we at the state won't collect it. We're only going to collect it for these individuals to maintain the integrity of the data. But you all can ask for whomever you want, okay? That is one point to point out that is the back of the page 2 is talking about the LEA's control of confidentiality. It is up to them who gets to see this information at their LEA. So, and we're talking specifically your LEA questions, but any of them. They don't have to opt for access to every principal or every mentor specialist to be able to see what their new teachers are saying, those types of things. And so we're recommending that they get a policy in place for good practice and also for good coverage. The other thing to note is a way to prevent it. We're not requiring them to find a way to prevent it because it is required in law that we prevent that already, that we prevent finding individualized identifiable data. So that was taken out just for that very reason. It's not that we're trying to remove that protection from teachers. And the end of that there is talking about the fact that the LEAs can add their own questions. So that's a whole lot of explanation about a very small rule. However, this is going to have a big impact and give us some really great information for our work. We have to be cautious at the very beginning that we're going off of the beginning, people getting used to it, people feeling like they're safe in order to answer questions and do those types of things. And it's going to take us a while to get that information, especially every other year. And it will depend upon how honest we can keep our exit people, those that are leaving. And leavers are considered leaving the profession. Well, no. It's leaving the profession or leaving the building or the LEA. And the survey has a logic model, a logic question string. So if they say I'm leaving the building or the LEA, they get these questions. If they say I'm leaving the profession, then it takes them to different questions that would be more relevant. We'll get very specific data under which they are exiting. As you've looked through this and I've talked at you, what questions do you have, comments, concerns? Those.
I have a question. I had an employee, and it's not specific to this, but I had an employee tell me the other day that they received
I heard I was supposed to do this.
a survey from the state. Is some of this stuff already coming out?
Okay, so we just had a meeting earlier this week with a few districts and charters that were already very well versed in Qualtrics in the system, and they're piloting it. And then, so we were having a training for about 60 individuals for these LEAs that wanted to pilot. That would be this year. And all of these other people heard and say, wait a minute, we want to know, we want to do it, we want to try. So we went from 60 to a room for 120. And then we got all the long sob story, what about me emails. So we ended up adding another 10. So it's grown. So it is available, it will be available this year on a pilot only basis. That's why we gained access to Qualtrics immediately.
Said something today. It sounded somewhat like
Career and Pathway Survey.
Was it the ECAP surveys?
Oh, it might have been the ECAP from UEPC, from the Education Policy Center. Because they're doing their, like I mentioned, they're doing their last survey as part of that long, gather all those data points. Find out some more and let me know, Superintendent. I will ask. I don't want anybody to freak. Let me help you help them.
There must be a glitch also. I've gotten the survey 3 times.
You've had the ECAP survey 3 times? Like,
In the last week or so, it just keeps coming. I filled out the first one. Oh, you did? But then the next 2, it just keeps coming.
well, they really need your opinion, Lisa, so.
I was like, I'm not doing that again.
Well, if they did their survey construction right,
So this is
you should be able to answer it again.
this is the Utah Educator Career and Pathways Survey. And I've gotten it 3 times.
Yeah, that's the ECAPs from you. That they're administering their final round right now. Okay. And the questions that come with this next one are kind of a follow-up.
Is that going to like new teachers, ARLs, APTs, interns? Who's that going to?
I believe they sent it to everybody because they're looking at that and analyzing it based on 3 different populations of teachers. Leavers, meaning gone from the profession. Movers, which move between LEAs or schools. And stayers that don't go anywhere. So they're combining their engagement with their exit. So it's going to everybody.
4 times.
I count, or you just count it, it's 4 times. I just double checked.
I'm feeling left out because I didn't get one.
You forward yours over to Superintendent Northcott.
Not.
And it's a do not reply one, so I can't send an email and
can't
say,
respond?
stop
All
telling me
right,
to send
I'll send Andrea.
It's coming from Kristen Weisinger.
Oh, that's her assistant. Okay.
They're about a week apart. The first one was the 1st, the 8th, the 15th, and then one this morning.
So November is the only time they're doing it, and I believe they're planning to be done before Thanksgiving. And so if you get 3 more, just ignore them. But I will let Andrea know. She's the director of the UVPC. His daughter is an Olympic skater and absolutely beautiful. All right, so timeline. Just so you know, there are some of your LEAs may have been there and part of that, and looking at that. I know I had Washington peeps there. I saw Lyle and I saw Sherry. There may have been more. Those were the 2 I recognized. But it's been a long time since I've seen anybody beyond Olene from you guys. So,
And us.
no, I haven't been invited out there for a long time. I got called a cheerleader last time I went out there, so. Just coming out there, I'm really happy. Anyway, so December 1, the pilot LEAs will go ahead and launch the first round of this. And that will be the engagement piece of it, unless they happen to have some that are leaving mid-year. And then on the 31st, that particular field test will end. They'll be getting the feedback based on taking the pilot. So not only will people take the pilot, they'll also offer any feedback that they had. Questions, the process, anything technical, those types of things. All of that will be put together January and February, and then in March, it goes to everybody. The engagement goes to everybody in the state. And then it comes to you from your LEAs, not from us. The data is reported all in one place on Qualtrics. We only get the data for the pieces that we set up ahead of time. Your LEA gets all of it for your LEA. We only get it in the aggregate. We do have an N size of 10, so if you have less than 10 that respond from your LEA, we don't get that information. Robert.
So will there be training for the other districts who weren't part? Because we can add to this survey.
Yes, yes. So there will be a second training that will be offered right around in here. And knowing the individuals that are working on this, and I've really been amazed with Qualtrics. I'm not too happy with vendors in general. They're kind of weird people. These guys aren't pushy. They're so laid back. We usually do phone calls online, and they've got baseball caps on and jeans and, you know, full laid back, easygoing people. So we'll be able to work through any of that. Again, it's still considered, you know, somewhat of a pilot. I mean, because we can only get such first time, last minute, but it'll give everybody the experience to do it. And again, we can find if there's statewide places that, happen. Great question.
Who will this survey come to? So none of us in our coaching team know anything.
No,
Not that
you
we
won't know.
should.
A lot of the LEAs don't even know. They saw this email somehow that went out to the specific ones that were said that they wanted to and that we knew were involved, and then it got out and we had all kinds of mad rush. So it will come from the LEA specifically to general education classroom teacher, preschool teacher, special education teacher, or school-based specialist.
Right, but it's sent by the LEA, so who would be?
Like HR?
Yeah, is it HR or is
Most
it?
likely,
Okay,
most likely it would be your HR.
okay.
I would hope HR would be the ones that would send that out to you, because they would probably be the most, and unless you are Daggett and, or.
I'm HR. I'm HR also.
He's also HR.
Sure, thanks. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm the one that's been getting them throughout.
So, yes,
When you said the list of people, is it basically anyone who is an FTE or uses an FTE?
pretty close as far as the state goes. It's not just FTE because there's, it's not counselors. We don't have SLPs.
School-based specialist.
They, still waiting for some clarification on those. But since we can't identify separately who those individuals are, an SLP's job is very different. Speech language pathologist, for those of you that aren't familiar with that part of our alphabet soup. Counselors are a different animal altogether, those types of things. And so there has to be some way to keep our data
Would be a school-based specialist.
coach, if you had some type of any kind of teacher on special assignment that however your district, I don't know how Tooele sends people out, but if they're assigned to a school or a couple schools most likely, but your HR may choose to still send it to everybody because they want that information.
But you won't get it because they're not. Weed itself out that you won't get.
How that happens, I'm not sure. Not associated with the cactus number. So I don't know if we expect the LEAs to determine first who to send only ours to and then who to send everybody else. That's a really good question that I would like to be able to answer. Do we have an online?
We do.
That's what you have to do, Timothy. When you need something, you just do this until.
All right, so Early Light Academy at Daybreak wants to know, is this survey from the state, somehow will it come to our LEA and then we will send it out to everyone and then get the information going back to the state? And then does the information go back to the state?
Okay, so what will happen is the LEAs will gain access to Qualtrics, which has the survey in it. Qualtrics is like Survey Monkey, for those of you that are familiar with that. It is one of the things as a company, they do lots more, but one of the things they do are HR surveys. And so your leadership, whoever that's designated by our upper corner office and works that out with your LEAs, I would presume at least your superintendent, probably HR, they will get access to Qualtrics, and within Qualtrics will be the engagement and the exit survey. So it will be LEA responsibility to access those, and then they will have had training, or if somehow that didn't happen, I'll figure out a way to come see you and do it myself. We'll show you how to use Qualtrics so that you can add your own, do those types of things before you send it out. And then when that data comes in, I'm not going to use all the acronyms, and quite honestly, I don't know most of them. Some of the questions have some type of little thing hooked to it, some little Martian that says, all right, this question is one that the state needs to know, so it flies that information to the state and to the LEA. This question, only the LEA asked. So a different little Martian comes in and grabs that and takes it only to the LEA. So there is some kind of magic electronic virtual world thing in which those are indicated. There's a mark on them somehow. So state gets the ones that are required by law and rule. LEAs get those and anything they added themselves. Let me know if ELA needs, if I didn't answer that.
And so just to clarify, the LEA will get a notification that they can log into Qualtrics with all the access and all the tools they need. And then it will magically, through technology somehow, go back to the state once they report it.
Real time.
Oh, and it's done in real time.
Mm-hmm.
They got it, thank you.
If Camille goes and takes it right when it's assigned, because she's one of those type A+++ personalities, the second it comes in, the
I would do
state,
it 4 times.
I know, she would do it 4 times. She would figure, she'd go to 4 different computers so they couldn't track the IP address. She would take it immediately, and whatever her answers, they came to us and the LEA just like that, regardless of who it is. And then the rest of her team just kind of procrastinates and does it whenever the heck they want, and waits till the deadline and they have to get 3 reminders. When they finally do it, the LEA and the state get it simultaneously. Real time right then. It won't be put up on the dashboard until we have a final. LEAs will have a dashboard available to them. They can set it up how they want. They have all of those things. Sounds like she got what she needed.
Yes, and George Richardson also weighed in about the
Where's
meeting.
George?
Millard.
Millard.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry. About that USBE and Qualtrics met with the districts on Tuesday, and so he was also providing some more light on her question. So, yep.
Good.
All is well.
Yes, we had a really good meeting with them all day. Except they brought in bagels in the morning, and some of them were those onion bagels, and the whole room just smelled like BO the whole day. I was sick. All right. Personal commentary. I know you're interested. All right.
Okay, so if somebody refuses, they say, I don't want to do it, do we just make note of that, saying that we offered it to them?
You just need to record that it was sent to them so that you have covered your bases. It can't be used against them or any of that.
We would never know, right?
Right.
We would never know who refused.
You would just know you
Yeah,
sent
is
it
there a
out.
portion on the survey, we just say, hey, go to this link, and then how do we track
Know that
that?
you sent it out,
You
right?
just-
You just have that data that you sent.
The system actually keeps track, because we use Qualtrics quite a bit in our district, the system actually keeps track of the date and time that the survey was sent and who it was sent to.
And that's
It's automatically done by
So you know who it
Qualtrics.
went to. So you can prove you sent it out for compliance issues and monitoring or any of that. But then, yes, you're right, you wouldn't know.
Well, okay, so as a teacher's leaving, our person deactivates their email accounts. How do we?
So you would want to make sure, and the minute you know, send it to them. I would imagine that we could work with HR directors and figure out a way to kind of help facilitate something like that. One of the things that I know all of you intrinsically and extrinsically want to do is support those teachers and whatever they're leaving, and trying to keep it as amicable as possible. Hopefully we've developed some way to go ahead and an opportunity to do that, whether it's on some type of computer, or give it to them at their home, whatever. But I'm sure we can work with HR people to see that the responsibility LEAs have is to give them the opportunity to provide that feedback via the survey.
If they decide not to, or somehow something happens, we're not in trouble.
Yeah, and if you haven't sent it and there was only one person that left and nobody responded, you know who it was. But regardless of who you send it to, not who, regardless of who responds, you have record that you sent it to them, and that's what you need. Yes?
Kind of related to that, is there a time, I do have to give them 2 weeks? Do you have to give them a week?
At this point, we're recommending you put a policy in place
Okay.
to answer that. Again, our board is trying to be as non-regulatory as possible.
Sure.
I think the only time they would put something like that in is if we do this for a while and you're finding you need some teeth in there, or, you know, it's an issue. But if you have a policy in place, that will kind of help it, and then plus it tells your teachers, you know, we'll give you a chance to get out of it. There's, you know.
Okay, that helps. Thank you.
Welcome, Robert.
So Qualtrics knows who you sent it to. Qualtrics also know then who answered it, because it says in the policy that must, when you write this policy, it must be kept unidentifiable. That's what we have to put in our policies, yet Qualtrics is gonna know.
I
who we
believe
sent
that's
it to. Do
identified
they
by
know who
ID.
filled it out?
I'm not you can create conditions, so I'm sure the state is working with Qualtrics to create the conditions
The
that
business
keep it
rules
private.
for that somehow.
Yeah,
Okay.
because that's part of the rule. I'm sure the state has attended to that.
So after the meeting on Tuesday that we went to, Qualtrics is, it's Greek, Spanish, and Nairobi to me. And so, I don't know, they speak different languages than Farsi. And so she and I are going to sit down so I can better understand the Qualtrics platform itself. And I would be able to answer those for you more easily, but I will get those answers.
When people leave, Jeannie, you can imagine that they'd have to leave a forwarding email. It wouldn't be your district email, because you're not gonna be on district mail anymore. But we still gotta get stuff to you, we still need to get a hold of you. So that could be in your rule.
Yeah.
Well, for our district, that's easy, because we don't pull people off our district email for 45.
It could
Yeah,
be.
that's probably in place in a lot of places, I think that's true. That one guy I tried to get a hold of.
Except here, it doesn't happen here.
He disappeared, he ghosted.
The second you go on leave, they. All right, so we're looking for. So this is the first time I've done that. All right, I will check on that. Robert, if you don't hear from me within a week on that, and I'll send it to this group, bug me. Send me,
You know, if they're gonna check on us who we sent it to,
and it may,
they have access to know who we sent it to. You're gonna have to turn off the access as to, you know, so for example, if you do a Google survey and you don't click off keep the emails,
right,
you know who,
right.
because all the emails are on the end of that survey.
And I did that on mine, so I knew who wanted to sign up for what. So I could track you down, and also who had comments. So anybody that filled it out and is worried about anything like that, you know me, let it go. You'll let us know, right? Let it go, yeah. Elsa, if she lets it go. All right, so, yeah, that's a fourth grader joke that I got. I was beating a dead horse. It was a lot of time on one thing, but I want you to understand that really it's meant to be helpful for all of us. And I'm wondering, Robert, I can't help but think that we're just going to say policy that says you're going to do it, and we're going to trust that you're going to do it.
Well, that leads to another question though.
Yes.
Because this is what I do for a living. Says, so the state's sending this out, USBE is sending this out, but in our policy, it has to say that we prevent the identification of educators who complete the survey.
We send it to you. Send it to your people.
I understand that, but I'm not the one that sets it up. How can I guarantee in my policy that anonymity is going to be there when I'm not the one that created the survey Or put or put all of the stuff on it.
Right. You and whoever you designate at your LEA leadership level has access to change anything.
Okay.
The things that will be locked in place are the ones required by the state, but you will have full kingdom rights to chop off their head if you need to. Don't do that though, because then we won't know why they're leaving, other than they're scared of you, Robert. All right. Some of you are getting a little droopy, but I want to keep going, okay? I'm thinking that we can get out of here before you go to lunch. And again, I'll tell you why in just a minute. So some of those comments were really, really good for me. A lot of affirmations, which, always great to hear. I didn't take any of this personally. I took it all as feedback for the group. And so I appreciate hearing what you had to say. Everybody was very respectful. Nobody was rude. There were some, what do we call them, critical friends, that gave some really good, honest feedback. So I appreciate that. And we'll talk about what that means for our group in a minute. So really quick, I'll give you a little bit of demographics of what came in. And I thought this was really interesting. So that's why I threw it up here. And if you start saying, Jeannie, this is stupid, I'll stop. This group, the 38 that answered, and a lot of you were in here, the blue, the 10.5, is at 10.5%. And now this is out of 38, and I didn't put actual numbers on there because I didn't have time to figure it out. But there you go. If you're a math person, you can figure it out. It's probably 1, right? Or 2. So first year is blue. This is in the group that answered, 10% were blue, 11 maybe. Second year, same amount. So the rest of y'all, we're looking at 3 to 5 years is that orange piece, orange slice. Talk to the top left. I'm sorry. And then look at this. 6 to 10 years, 30%. A third of you, 6 to 10%, are 6 to 10 years working with mentor teachers. I mean, look at the absolutely amazing knowledge and experience of learning that we have going on in this room already. And what a great mix. And then the purple, more than 10 years, yowza, and you're still involved, you rock. You rock. You all do. Welcome to the group. All right. Attending the meetings, this is what made me really happy. That big green piece is every meeting, or at least tried to attend every meeting, which tells me they're at least somewhat useful. The next largest is twice, which makes sense because we're doing them 4 times a year. And whether that's by choice or not, that's where we are. The next largest that's noticeable is the blue, 7.9, and that's 1. And there were a couple qualifiers to those saying, well, I signed up to attend every meeting, but sometimes I have to go virtual or those types of things. I wasn't tracking who did what. I was just interested. I wanted to find out what y'all wanted for virtual or face-to-face, and we're looking at 1/3 that want virtual and 2/3 that want face-to-face. This will come into play in the discussion in just a little bit. So it's a pretty even, 40-60, that's not bad. How often do you want the group to meet? This one surprised me as well. The green, 39.5%, so 40% want to maintain 4 times a year. We used to do 3, and then we changed it to 4 a couple of years ago because that's what people wanted, and apparently that seems to be working. Twice a year, though, not too far behind at 32%. So we have 40%, 32%, and then 3 times a year we have at 24%. And then this is once a year, the blue is once a year. All of this is going to feed into when we talk about the purpose of these meetings. And I need to clarify my purpose with your purpose and what you want. Because for years it's been disseminating information. That's what this meeting's been about. We've slowly, not fast enough, been changing it to doing more of sharing practices. And we're going to talk about some different ways that we can meet some of those requests. So, can you read that, or is it too small? Too small? You can read it? You can read it. I'm just going to let you look at it. These, by the way, were the thumbs up. sorry, these are the things that people were saying are working. You'll all get a copy of this. If they duplicated something very similar. And some of these, you know, hearing ideas from other districts, what works and what doesn't, was a little more pointed from enjoying the collaboration and the sharing. The sharing was, you know, there were some broader and then there were some more specific. You know, but we've got 12 here with the sharing and 3 with hearing ideas from others. Licensing system, I kind of believe that that one is heavy right now because of the time that we're at with the change. But hey, whatever you appreciate, whatever you need, I'm glad that we've got that going for you. But 12 with that, I was also excited personally, just because I'm a research junkie and a legislature junkie, that's at least helpful. I loved seeing, and there were a couple different questions about being able to ask questions. I hope you all feel safe asking any question that you want to. And if not, I get emails too, so that's fantastic. Jana, they want to know more about your instructional playbook. Guess what? You're going to hear about it today. Jana's going to share a lot of the stuff that they're doing in Washington. She could share every meeting for hours, so we're going to have to pick and choose what we borrow from her. All right, these are the things that Simon Cowell there tells you were, well, if I could change it, these are the things I would change. That's kind of a little more negative, but there were a few that were duplicates, but I wanted you to see the context around why. Oh. So when I look at these, this tells me that we have some different purposes in mind for this meeting, and I think we'll be able to talk about ways to meet. There were several others about the half day. That's part of why I'm telling you we're going to try and get done before lunch today. I think that's a very reasonable request, especially for today with the situation that we were in with attendance and all of the problems with the travelers. But all of this is very, very helpful for me. It's kind of that start, stop, sustain type information. I've already started to separate it into the 3 and start looking at it. All right, so let me go to this first. I gave you a selection of things, and that selection was based off of your list you made. I don't know, somebody scripted for me. Kelly, it might have been you. You guys listed out the topics you wanted to hear about. This was the list of topics, and there were a few more. A few others just had really low response for, you know, I'm interested in this. Of course, licensing. There were 4 ratings you could give it. Licensing had 100% in the top 2. So clearly, we'll bring in some more information, and I'll have Travis do that again at our next meeting in February, because we're getting closer to that time. In the meantime, if you have burning questions before the February date, I'm going to encourage you to email him or call him and copy me. Or you could do the reverse. You can send it to me and then I can send it to him. There were several questions that were asked about licensing directly in the survey. I sent those to him in an email on a bolded list, and I said, if you can answer these in an email, that'd be great. If you can't, that's all right. And we can send it to the people that sent it in. So that's definitely, but these are kind of in order of what was most important to people, starting at the top. Google Forms was cool. I've never done one before. I just don't like their analytics at the end. They're kind of weird. I can't manipulate the way they add up and all that stuff. So I can't change the data to make it be what I want. No, I'm just kidding.
Always a problem.
So, I took differentiated mentoring on there twice. Sorry, that's not what was supposed to be on there. The differentiated mentoring was specifically talking about, are you mentoring a special ed teacher? Are you mentoring secondary versus elementary? Are we looking at, now with the new licensing, the different levels? Are we looking at an LEA specific versus an associate? Are we looking at how many years of experience? So all the different ways that you might tweak your support for your new teachers based on whatever it is that they need. So, and I know many of you have that in place. Some of you are very, very structured about how you release a year 1 teacher to a year 3 teacher, and you know, there's all kinds of great things going on. So there's that. Reducing stress. Actually, I was surprised you guys put the stress of the beginning teachers before yourselves. First, I was surprised, and I thought, no, that's this group. Selflessness. You're thinking about them. Selflessness reminds me of a really quick story. Tangents bothered somebody on the other comments, but I'm gonna tell you really quick. I got home on Tuesday after my training. My 7-year-old son, only boy, thinks it's really cool he can run around without a shirt. And he ran up, gave me a hug. Sorry for my shirtlessness, Mom, and took off running. Sorry. All right, I had to say it. I won't go on any more tangents with that. All right, so these are other topics that were listed. Evaluation was only on there once, but I put it on there because we are looking at reviving that on our educator effectiveness team, as far as not changes or anything else, but just making sure that our districts are following law specific to them and that they're getting support, because we always have that drift away from what's required or we forget. And then I'm going to be really focusing some support with your charter directors, because you are now required to report evaluations like the districts on 4 terms based on whatever your evaluation is. So if you have an evaluation system that gives 5 ratings, you now have to report it to us in 4. If you only give 2, if you're on a binary system and you got it or you got to keep working, you have to now report that into 4. And so I'll be working with district directors on, or excuse me, charter directors on how to do that. So evaluation system is going to be refreshed a little bit and brought back up to the surface a little bit more, since the bubbles kind of died down. Plus we can get it back to focusing on feedback, not on judgment, right? Okay. That's why I put it up there. We'll discuss later if that's actually something we address this year or continue. Robert.
So the
Who's
evaluation
leading?
system
Yeah.
is 4, not 3?
Evaluation system?
Yeah, you have,
Not effective.
yep,
Minimally
okay, all right.
effective and highly effective. Minimally or emerging based on license level. We have to change that because we have level 1 and level 2. Now we have to do associate and starting mentor as a charter school. We have 2 different situations with charter schools. 1, we have new charters coming on all the time, so it's a whole new experience. And 2, we have a lot of new teachers in our charter schools. And 3, charter schools are kind of their own, they're their own LEA, they're their own district. They don't have back office support, they don't have all of this. And so how do they get going with their support? So this is going into some of the differentiation that I want to talk to you about in a little bit as far as the things we address in here. Playbook of best practices, I think that goes back to Jana's, but when we have her talk about that, I'm going to push really hard against what some of you want, and I'm not going to let her just hand over what they have. I'm going to ask her to show you how to go through the process to develop one for you, because that's where the learning occurs, and that's where it's relevant for you. But we won't ask her to do that fully today. She's going to talk about it, but another time, we'll give her some time to stand up here and do the good work. All right, there was one about funding for mentoring programs. I wanted to ask this group about that. I was going to actually, when in the email, on the draft email, we were going to look at the cost analysis of the study that we looked at last time for when the new Teacher Center did their study of 1 year of mentoring support for some schools and 2 years of mentoring support for other schools and the difference. There was only one group that had statistically significant positive effect, but I didn't know how much control y'all have of your funding. in our conversations that we've heard and we've talked about, it's not a control thing for you. It's not in your sphere of control. It may be in your sphere of influence, either if you know it or you don't, or it may not be because your LEA leadership says this is none of your business, here's the money you have, deal with it, and that's okay too. So I didn't know how much talking about money and funding and budgeting would help, so I decided not to talk about that today. But, all right, let's do it this way. 0 is, as far as I know and understand, I have zero control of how much money I get to use for my program, or I get $0, or whatever it is. There's nothing available, and I can't do anything about it. 2 to 3 is about, I know at least what I get, and sometimes I can ask for stuff and that kind of thing. 4 is, they will let me give recommendations. I have a little bit of say when they're developing the budget. And 5 is I am actively involved when they're setting up my budget and what we're doing. Talk about what it is that we plan and all those kinds of things. There's no judgment, remember? I just want to know, where are you? So, fist to 5, where are you in your sphere of influence on the funding you have, where it comes from, how much, what you do with it?
Mr. 5.
Better say 5.
Take control of $0.
You have some. I know of some.
I'm kidding.
How many students do you have in your district, Superintendent?
Oh, about 200.
Kind of like a charter in some places. All right.
Smaller than a charter.
Smaller than, many charters, and actually we have some charters, but I think we have one with 63 kids. All right, and then struggling teacher mentoring. So let me just quickly address this. One of the things we talked about briefly at our last meeting was Salt Lake District System, or their program called PAR, Peer Assistance Review. Thank you, that's what I thought it was, and I thought, oh wait, that kind of makes sense, but kind of doesn't. They were part of a pilot that was offered. They were the only district that applied for the money, only LEA that applied for the money. This was 5 years ago. There was a total of $400,000 available each year. They were the only ones that asked for it. They were the only ones that got it. It was not enough to cover it. But they supplemented it. And I'll tell you why. I get choked up thinking about how powerful this is. So this was a partnership between the district and the association. So we had 2 very strong, powerful teacher advocate groups working together to say, what can we do? And if you talk to Travis, he's got 2 reasons for mentoring. Support those teachers that are needing it, ready to go, and counsel out those that you can see right away or not. You can have your own philosophy. PAR kind of helps do that. That's not necessarily the goal, but what they found is they could very easily tell very quickly, but they're not gonna. They didn't find what you think they're gonna find. Their numbers for retention were so. Their new teachers had a 98% retention 5 years. It went from 90 to 98. That's unheard of nationally. We had data for that. We took it to the legislature. We had 3 or 4 legislators that are saying, yes, right on. And we had others that said that was a pilot. It's over. It's done. Salt Lake District just decided that that's a priority, and they find other funding, and they have well over $550,000 for them the way they do it. Don't want to shut down small people. Okay. Start talking about sharing these good ideas. We're going to talk about scaling them up and down and have you work in like-sized groups. Say, all right, we've got these great ideas. How do we make this work for us? And how do we make this work for us? And that type of thing.
Jeannie,
They
could you
also,
just give a synopsis of what they did with it?
yes, one little quick part too. also with it, whatever. I'll have Kelly do a little bit more formal, so she can give you some, talk about the resources. Or you can have Logan come in if you think that would be better. Logan and his, only if he promises to wear a bow tie. I've noticed that he stopped wearing those 100%.
He's still wearing them.
Is he still?
He's got a chocolate chip one, cookie one.
Okay, thank you for letting me know when he comes. I'm gonna ask him to come talk about it.
Okay.
You could do it with him, and I'm gonna ask for his chocolate chip cookie tie. And when he does, I'll bring chocolate chip cookies. All right, so, they also work with struggling career teachers. It was not only new teachers. That one, I can't remember what retention rate was. That wasn't well, that was the focus.
Oh, and it was kind of messy at first, but they've just done a couple recently. It's gotten a lot better, but it's really great, I think.
It gives a lot of support to those struggling teachers, so you're not giving up on them. You don't go automatically to an improvement plan and say, do this, do this, do this, you're gonna lose your job. It's, we're going to support you first. And if we can't support you into becoming a more effective teacher, then we're going to help you not find the next career, but understand you need another career. And it is all done in a very professional and, I don't want caring to sound squishy and warm, but supportive way.
I think we need to start using the word equity more. It's not equitable to keep substandard, non-useful teachers in classrooms with students. It's not fair for this student to have a fantastic teacher and this student to spend a whole year with a teacher who is unhappy and unuseful. So if our whole goal is to teach students, then we need to think about equity and get our very best people in there and get our other people who are not useful for students somewhere else.
So imagine your own child, your grandchild, your niece, your nephew, any child that you care about in an ineffective teacher's classroom. You know that. I will tell you from a state perspective, and that's why I went the way I did for the last 2 years of focusing on you supporting them. Next year is going to be focusing on the students. So it's you as mentors, the support you need, working with those new teachers to get to the kids. Okay, we have to keep those teachers out, get them out of survival mode, or at least keep them floating, and we know that's part of it. That's perfectly fine. Sometimes I go back to that. But we've got to move beyond that and get to those students. And that third year, research says, is the golden year. Any of them are ready second year to really start digging into that. So next year, we're going to be focusing more on students, and equity will be a very, very huge piece on that because we have state, we have federal, and we have just good old-fashioned best practice. Done equity labs around the state for a year. We'll be following up on those and continuing and talking about equitable distribution of teachers, okay? But not all LEAs have enough teachers to shift people around or do those kinds of things, or they only have one school. So we talked about different ways. We showed them different data points about Utah and how we're dividing new teacher classrooms. We're giving new teachers in third grade. This was a class that came from a Utah LEA. Third grade had 3 teachers. 2 of them were brand new teachers. Those 2 teachers one had 86% of the students in third grade that were special ed. The other teacher that wasn't new had been there for 15 years. One of them had some odd percent, I think, of the ESL students. One of them had 32 kids. The experienced teacher had 28 children. And I say her because we didn't share who it was. They were all women. 28 children, and those brand new teachers, first year, tough kids, or not necessarily tough kids, but kids that need extra attention and extra skill, knowledge, and effectiveness weren't getting the experienced teacher. Now, the experienced teacher, effective teacher. So we can't make an assumption there, right? But anyway, that's just a snapshot of what we did, and we pulled.
Even more ridiculous, they give every new teacher 6 different preps. The experienced teacher is teaching 5 sections of AP literature with 12 kids in it or something. It's shocking.
All right, so instead of admiring our problems.
I did get an amen from the chat room, so.
Hallelujah. All right. Instead of just admiring our problems next year, though, we're going to talk about our students. We're going to include that equity piece, but we are going to start being advocates for this, for how we can make sure our students are getting our most effective teachers. And it's our responsibilities as mentors to get our new teachers to the point that they're effective. That's ultimately what we're doing, right? Well, ultimately, it's to get those kiddos where they need to be. But we're using those we're the conduit for those new teachers to get to those kids. So next year is about the kids, and it's about advocating for our new teachers and making sure that we're helping them. Because we can admire our problems all day long. We can list all the things that are hard to do. We can list how we don't have any money. There's so much that we can list. Guess what? So what? No more excuses. We're done with those. Take the can as far as we can down the road. And we're not doing us any good. We sit in here and we get frustrated. So no more frustration next year. But you are going to have to roll up your sleeves today. That'll be fun. All right. So anyway, the struggling teacher mentor or mentoring. There were also a couple comments, but I know there's a lot of research out here right now about relationships with mentors and new teachers. And I know for those of you that are experienced in this, we've talked about that and talked about that and talked about that. But those of you that are new to this, we need to talk about the different phases they go through and how we deal with some of those clashing personalities and those types of things. So we'll also talk about that. In fact, let's talk about it right now. No, we're not going to talk about it right now. We're going to take 7 minutes for a break. You're going to come back at 10:16, and we're going to start and have the next round of chatting because I'm going to need you to be talking, and you're going to have to start coming up with some ideas and solutions. Not just brainstorming for the heck of brainstorming, but you're going to be coming up with a list of solutions that we can start looking at, okay? 10:16, I'll see you here.
Anytime, I'm good.
I looked at that.
Did you see?
I looked so
Oh, you're really good. I can do them.
Yeah.
Right around the corner, on your left hand side is our bridge. And I'm trying to get someone to bring down some snacks to pass around, so. Virtual aspects.
I come out and I go to my administrator and I said,
It should be very simple.
And
If this were a
it's
business.
like, okay, there. Just kind of chocolate.
I am.
Well, you know,
Scare 'em. Oh, no, yeah.
So we actually went to them, we have 2 messages, one I have one, but we went to them, here is the text. And let the teacher text.
That's our slides.
Page the text go. No, reading strategy.
And what did the?
So I didn't teach that. I said, let's go over this for a minute. What does that mean? Which standard does that fit in? Let's look at this. Good. It's an APT.
At first, I was like, you're needed in ARL, and so then I went and was
So he
I
could,
was like, well, he's going away, so
than what I
we're gonna do some other stuff. And so he was like, okay, they need you all educator officials.
I think her level one expires this year.
And then all of those.
I deleted it.
Yeah, it's kind of become this
For management.
Yeah.
everyone just like came to the class. Nervous, they don't, they'll be fine. It's like,
On chance.
That's right.
That's all we can do.
people keep just doing it. Your principal is always.
What you to do next?
Exactly.
You're gonna coach, and then you're gonna be devastated about how she
Is it? More information for ARL. We're an acting principal right now.
And so our first years,
Principal
we go through
what?
classroom management stuff.
And we're working, yes. You know some.
Cassidy, how are you?
See you.
Good to see you. Good to be seen.
Yeah, it's good to be seen.
Yeah.
Good to be up and about.
Yeah. We resolve things about this, but, so.
Or there's something they want us to just. But otherwise I find it's just, I don't know what the specifics on like. Yeah. Not what we need to do. Beautiful phrase, isn't it? Yeah. College art. That's the best. 5 days a week. Like I don't want to get to my salary teachers.
So, the next step is to go about it.
Figure out what she's gonna do with policies.
It is.
And I said to her, is was it 10th grade curriculum? They shuffled them out, or 9th grade teacher.
Have any of you ever been to Lumen?
She was runner-up for teacher of the year about 3 years ago, and she retired, and then we got her back from China. She's got 9th grade, she can handle 9th grade.
Look at me charging my phone from my computer.
So you propose this one.
I don't know, I just started plugging it.
Like mine.
So we can finish the term like this. 36. Oh!
Definitely need some reflection time.
I have to take for Thanksgiving.
And you started?
Remember my group?
I know you got the rest of me.
He did his sub-plan, oh, I love his sub-plan next week. My kids are reading, and there's a granola bar on my desk if you want.
Family's weird.
Sorry.
And so
I didn't
here,
mean to do that out loud.
well, both are.
They don't really love it.
And here I am.
So,
I'm the only one who didn't go to UCT. Here I am scrambling.
brother loves apple crisp, so I make him an apple crisp.
Husband loves it.
Yeah, and then I'm gonna. And my son-in-law likes banana pudding.
I think that's your, those are your.
But it's so easy. It's a graham cracker crust. Slice bananas in the bottom.
Here are my notes from my
Make
meeting.
banana pudding, put half a container of Cool Whip of your banana pudding after.
We don't know where they
I don't quite get it.
It's usually stupid good.
Upset for 2 weeks or something. Yeah, but like, I kind of don't want us to be really good at this, so.
Speed grading, it's like a grade C.
Partner with Buddy about quite, I just said,
That would take a long lunch.
Katie, she goes through.
Heard it was till 3:30. Called Ashby Rockmore and said,
4 times a year, we have to do a Medicaid time study. So I have to report every 15 minutes what I'm doing.
Steven said he resubmitted.
It's kind of annoying, but.
Just remember, the speakers and microphones, so just when
It's tied to our Medicaid reimbursement funding that we receive.
why they didn't.
So if we're engaged in any
If you could either pick a side or kind of
that involves So this is policies or trainings that involves or connects back to funding that our district get reimbursement for. So we have to just kind of document for a full week, for a full week, 5 days. For 5 consecutive days, every 15
We'll be doing this
minutes.
Yeah, so this meeting,
Yeah.
How do you get your work done?
And you can just report it all like on the last day.
But if you don't go, like, you forget.
Yeah, I mean, your calendar helps you somewhat, but things like this, like anything that's related to legal policy or procedure, it doesn't come under Medicaid, but because there are, how many different codes are there? A through Q,
watch what you say.
the different codes.
Yeah, yeah.
Report according to those codes.
Next time,
Every 15 minutes.
I will hound you with number notes.
To all district levels, make sure you have staff have to do it. And then they change every time
To Google just put a link in YouTube.
the different range of teachers, psychologists, speech pathologists, therapists, paraeducators. But it's usually about 300 pages.
And I'll let them like send an email afterwards and let you guys know.
So you have the proofreading and then also categories.
So yeah, but all is well. Alex has been tinkering with the settings because there's been a buffering issue, so it's not on our end. It's something that he has to do.
And it's fairly detailed, like exactly what was done or things to do. You have to type out a
All right, let's get going. So these meetings, though they are about me, they are about you too. So based on your comments, we have a few things to talk about. Our virtual people have some very legitimate comments that camera shots are weird because Wally is the one that follows the sound. Wally freaks me out. My back is always to Wally. Not just for that purpose, but there's no reason for me to look there when you guys are all here, right? So that is an issue for our virtual people.
And also that one, don't forget, that one's on you.
That one
The ones
follow
on the
me?
wall, the one, Wally's on the wall will pick up on your guys' voices and body movements during Q&A. So you'll see them move from time to time. Don't get freaked out. That's how they are. Yeah. And then the one in the center is programmed to focus on you, I think.
Oh, all right.
So you're going to be on camera no matter what.
I don't mind being on camera, but I mind Wally following me. I used to have an aerobics television show on TV. I think some of you know that. And so the camera doesn't bother me. Not that I look for them, but anyway. So we have people out in virtual land that have issues with that. The other is when we have time to discuss things in here and we do group conversations, that's also hard. Though comments about that, our virtual people also acknowledged. I turned it off. Also acknowledged that that's part of attending virtually. That's why I insist on as many meetings as I can face-to-face, because I feel like the collaboration and the discussion are absolutely critical. And unless it is a dissemination of information only, I really like face-to-face, and it's my preference. So I'll always have that available. Now the amount it's available versus the other is something that's up for discussion. There were recommendations of going completely virtual with everybody getting on camera and doing that. I've done those a number of times, and maybe if I learned better skills, I haven't facilitated them, but I participated. And if I learned better skills, I might be able to manage those. The ones I've participated in have been very difficult with everybody trying to chime in when we have such an open forum for you to give input. but I'm welcome, I will certainly consider anything. Somebody else also mentioned maybe doing some of them virtually, in between doing a webinar and then, a couple face-to-face. There were a lot, not a lot, but there were a few things about, well, some of this pertains to me, some of it doesn't. There was one that very specifically said, I'd rather come and just have you lecture in, lecture style, give us all the updates, tell us what we need to know, and then that's it. And that's one purpose for meetings. There are several meetings that are done here at USBE that are done with, directors of certain programs or, coordinators like this that are purely informational. My purpose on these is twofold. It has been informational first to give you whatever's going on, latest to greatest, and then second is to talk about best practices. We've moved more toward you doing it, and now we're going to move toward you doing all of the best practices. There were some people that said research was a waste of time, but more people said they liked it. And I don't know, waste of time seems kind of harsh, but they just didn't find it useful. And so there were enough people that did, and because I know, anyway, we will do research in each one. We will open our meetings with that. If you think there's a different place to put it, I'm open to suggestions. I think it's important, though, that you're aware of what's out there, what's going on, latest and greatest. And I will look for things that have things that you can apply, because that was one of the comments was, it's great to know that stuff, but I can't necessarily take it back and use it, which is a legit concern or idea or thought. And so I will look for things that have that meaty research, and then also make sure that if it's not in the article itself or the research, that we talk about how does this apply to you? Why do you even care, kind of thing. And so we'll work on that. There were a few comments about, the group activities. We don't need the large group activities. They're not, that's not what we're here for. And I think that goes back to purpose of what we're doing here. Several comments on this could be done in half a day. One specifically, and I think this is kind of where some people were going, is we do a lot in the morning, we go to lunch, we come back, it's kind of short. I usually have you guys go home early, and so to stay and then take a break for lunch and then come back for a little short time isn't necessarily the most efficient use of your time. And I recognize that. And like I said, several comments specific to these could be half days. And currently how they're running, they could be. So I have a proposal of having it be a full day, being extended a little bit longer in the afternoon. Morning is business. It's research to get your brain thinking about it. And then it is whatever's going on at USBE. It's whatever's coming down from the legislature. It's whatever the big stuff that's happening that is old style faculty meeting, the information you just have to have. And if it lasts till lunch, great. If it doesn't last till lunch, we'll take an early lunch, and then the afternoon will be when we share best practices. So for those individuals that are looking for something that's a little more traditional in some of these meetings of getting the information that's important, I'm thinking we'll do that the first part. And then anybody that just, that's what they need, that's what they want, and have other things they need to do or the others just doesn't work for them, we all have our own style and our own needs, then they can go their way and do their thing, and the people that want to stay and talk with other LEAs can stay and do their thing. Because I'm hearing two purposes from people. Now, granted, this is 38 out of 60 plus that usually attend. Possibly more. I'm going to do a little bit more solicitation for next year to try and get some more people involved. I'd like some more perspectives, and I want to do in the afternoons when we're talking about things that we're presenting ideas, and then I want to talk about contextual application. I am a small charter, a very small charter. What does this mean for me? Okay, small charters talk. What are you going to do with this? large districts or large charters, we have a couple large charters that are bigger than some of our districts. What are you going to do with this? You know, break it up by that, break it up by topic specific. We'll talk about different ways to talk, to use that sharing time to how it's best for you. Because I know sometimes, I know that Miss Jana has one heck of a mentoring program set up. And they have a large department that has worked on these kinds of things for a long time. And then they have Jana, who has vast knowledge and experience that can really fine tune it and really make this into something that's very structured. And not all of you, all of us have that capacity. But there are things that we all take from it, right? We're adult learners, we get from it what we can. But if we need further discussion to talk about that, all right, what are you gonna do with that? What are you gonna do with that? I mean, I want that part of it to be open to what you need. Topic specific, group specific, both. So we'll negotiate those. I think at the end of the year, when we meet the last meeting in May, we'll talk about how we want to set up the next year. Just immediate reaction. How do you feel about that? If you feel comfortable sharing to the group. Jan is very shy, but thank you.
I hardly ever say anything. The earlier, and I think this is some people's complaints about faculty meetings when you mentioned that. The business items or the details, I like on a piece of paper, which could be sent in an email. And then what administrators could do, and they never do, is say, please acknowledge that you have read and received this information and blah, 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 right?
Yep.
But then what's good about getting together is the sharing. So I would rather get the information on an email, look it over before I got here, and then talk about anything that needed to be discussed while we're here from 9 to 12 and go. That'd be my good choice.
So email, this is one idea.
This is one idea.
Email ahead with the things that I had earlier, with the rule, with outcomes from the survey, that type of thing.
Business items, USBE information, new stuff that we need to know. Because we've seen in our previous meetings that some people need to hear that 18 times. I do. And I would like to read it a bunch of times. I'd like to underline it. And then I want to move forward. So.
And then have a half day of actual
Application stuff.
So we wouldn't talk about the business things.
Good. Had to.
Just want to piggyback on that because it would be nice to have it in writing and we could review it and then come with particular questions. But in my opinion, the difference of that is if you're in a school and you already kind of know the basis of what's happening in a school, where we're all coming from different avenues and different, all over with understandings, and a lot of it is very new. And so I think it'd also be important to have time to address questions that we had about the business items and ask questions about it, because it's usually impactful, but it's not something that is common. And so I think there'd be important to have that time and to have it in the morning so that we can have it done and behind us and then focus on other things.
At that time, would you say we're going to spend the first hour on it?
Yeah, I mean, you'd want
So
to
that you can move on, or
a reasonable amount of time so that we're not left, because that's we come for those answers as well as other information, and so we would need enough time to have the answers but not belabor it, of course. So a reasonable amount of time, but to have it in a parameter.
so 8 to 9 would be talk about any business that you saw that you have questions about.
30 to 9.
Or 9 to 10. Or 9 to 10. Okay, if we're going half days, we're starting no later than 8:30. I know some of you have to drive, we can
Yeah,
chat,
half
but.
days at 8:30 are great.
So 8:30 to 9:30, this is a proposal, we're still gonna consider. 8:30 to 9:30, dotted line, starting at 9:30 is when we share. That dotted line meaning if we need a little extra time to keep talking about it, then we can carry into into the sharing part.
And most likely would not take any more than an hour because, once, if something needs more than an hour, then it probably needs more clarification beyond us, so.
Okay. So then, so that you think vast majority would benefit from that, so it makes sense for everybody to be here at 8:30. Come at 9:30 if you don't have questions.
Oh yeah, I would think the vast majority would benefit by it. I know that that's one of the things that we look forward to, or those clarifications and that information that is impact, that those business items. And we love the rest too. We often will take back ideas that we glean here and use them in our trainings, and so all of that is very important. It's just kind of that, almost that Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You kind of need to know what you need to know first before you can move on to other things.
Right, okay. And then with my pushing on the research, which I'm willing to move on if we need to, does the research then, do we look at research, or is that something that ahead of time you get the research article and I just kind of send maybe some reflection questions ahead of time, and then we do a quick share out of what you think? I don't know.
And what if when we read the article, there were some things in there we could model and practice here together?
And it seems like everything we do should be anchored in some research and to have some piece. So I enjoyed the research that you shared at the last piece, and I think that's important to have both sides of the research. And I'm all for research, not belabor it again, but to have some that. So what we do is always being going back to have a touch point in research.
That part of that is one, over being in a federal program, that's what I do, but two, that's our work. Everything should be research, but evidence-based. So the research that we're looking at needs to have that. Or it's not.
I got a question back here.
Yes. Robert, did you have?
So, in just agreeing with what's been said, the way we, in our district, what we've moved to is we get the information out early. So, for example, all of that state stuff would come out early, research would come out early. And then we use protocols. And so we're able to do in about an hour what most people do in 3 hours. Because we come to that meeting and there's protocol like what did I notice? What do I still wonder? And we've looked at it and I can say, this is what I noticed. We go around the room. This is what we noticed. This is what I still wonder about. We talk about what we wonder about. And we get done in about an hour what most people do.
So the protocol that I had set up for today's would have been, you'd already read the article, we could have done the protocol and moved forward.
Because we can do all of that. We're responsible people. We can do that before.
And if you haven't, then you just join in and do what you can, right?
You'll be wondering what everybody's
I
wondering.
have a lot of wonderings.
In the article.
Okay?
Jeannie, I don't mean to play devil's advocate.
No,
but I'm
do.
because-
I expect you to do that.
I know, I'm sorry.
No.
I'm just thinking of for being over this, yeah, that would be great for us, but is that doable for you? Because you wear a million hats, and to prepare all this, I think you're lucky to get what you get for us the day we're here. And I don't mean that rude in any way, you just got a lot to do. So is that even doable for you to do all this pre-work for us to get it all out before?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So you heard Cassidy laugh. Usually the earliest I get to bed the night before these is 2. Last night I just didn't go to bed. So part of that's my own problem is I tweak things. But I spend the entire week ahead of time doing all the way in between when I catch articles, research I see, I throw it in a folder, sometime for 2019, 2020. Then I spend all the time building up to this to choose. Oftentimes I don't choose what we're going to do until the night before, based on multiple things. So, and I will tell you, at the last August meeting, there were a couple comments about it, and nothing was personal or rude. I was not with it, and so hopefully that won't ever happen again, I promise. But yeah, it is. It's last minute for me. That's how my world is with. But that doesn't mean my job is to give you guys what you need, not what I need. And if it is important enough for you all to have that, then I'll just get Timothy ready to go and
Let's give it all to him. That's fine.
thank you for thinking of that. And that is my world, absolutely. And my world is you and what you need. If that's going to be a better use of your time, then everything else can wait, and I'll just do all of that. And I can make this a priority and make it work. If that's what you need, then that's my job, right? I get it the night before. No, I'm just kidding. I could. I could say, who would be willing to find a research article for the next one and develop a protocol that you will come and lead at the next meeting? Would you guys be willing to do that? Not everybody has to, but are there enough of you that be willing to take that on and give it a shot? Should we try that? That's me delegating. I get a tally point. Good job. All right, who wants to take? Janet's going to take the first one on today.
Magically.
Well, she didn't have it ahead of time for you, but all right, think about that. If somebody's willing to volunteer at some point with me to do that, Camille, you're right with all the other stuff, having that ahead of time, and I think it actually would be nice for someone else. Not because I don't love it. I do way more research than I actually do. I love that stuff.
Like Logan to come on one of those too. Got plenty of research and information. Much work for, I shouldn't say that. I would help him, but we could probably take one of them.
So you would do the research part and maybe connect it with your
presentation.
So you could do the research part in the morning with the protocol, and then when you do your part in the afternoon, it would be something that it would tie to. All right. I'm not going to speak for you, but there's a good possibility that the interest may not, that they don't know what they don't know. And so I think the interest will be there the second you guys start talking about it.
Okay.
And I think any ideas, really, and again, we're talking big district, we're talking money. So we'll talk about how it looks for other people that don't, and if that's something you do on value, it might not be that Salt Lake District thinks for you, maybe it's we have a discussion now, okay, let's talk about our littles and our bigs, but, all right. I think I have that one tentatively set up for the May, but I'm going to have you, while we're working today, maybe reach out. All right, so I have one meeting taken care of with the research. You were off. Literacy's Teacher of the Year. You all should be Teachers of the Year. All right. Kelly, I have your name down. You are so stuck. I love the idea, again, Camille, of acknowledging that is reality. I love the idea from Robert that and if you don't read it, you don't read it. We are all adults, right? That's never happened to me. I always read ahead of time. All right. Other input ideas about format? Okay, think about this. We may try it the very next meeting. We may not wait till next year. Maybe we should try it the very next meeting. So I'll wait and find out from Kelly if Logan wants to do next month or next meeting, February. May, the morning is, I'll have to gauge legislative session. We may have to spend a little bit more time than an hour, looking at. But I'll be able to judge that a little bit ahead of time. So, right now, tentatively, first part of the morning, beforehand, I can send business beforehand. And somebody is going to volunteer to do evidence-based research ahead of time. You can send it to me, I'll send it out. Protocol set up ahead of time so you know what that is. We'll do that. First hour, do that, answer questions. If we have to sneak into the next section, we'll do that. Rest of the morning is dedicated to sharing practice. Can we go till 1? If necessary. Can we schedule till 1, and if we get done earlier, go? And I think that's the most important part of the meeting is you sharing. But I also don't want to starve you to death or.
That really works for those of us who drive south, because after 3 o'clock, we just as well stay here and wait till 8 o'clock to go home.
Exactly.
I can get home much quicker if I wait till 8 o'clock than if I leave here at 3 or 4.
I only drive to Riverton, and it will double my drive time if I don't leave here at 3, which that's not possible. So yeah, I hang around downtown until that time. Smell what you're stepping in, Robert. And that's good. That's another way it'll help you guys. That's great. Writing this down. 8:30 to 1 is what we'll schedule. We'll try this new layout and see what you think. Run? Okay. Anybody virtual have anything to say about that?
Nope, they're all silent.
All right. Next meeting, we might be able to take a little bit of time to talk about virtual options and that. But for now, let's not mess around with anything. We'll just try this. All right. Groovy. Sounds good. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And again, thank you for the input. It really helps. And it's kind of a no duh that this really could be a half day. But that was helpful to hear it. Wrong way. That. All right, so I did this based on order of interest, sort of, and then I had to kind of move it around a little bit. This is my tentative suggestion for topics. Differentiated mentoring was the second one, and I know that's hot, and I know the earlier you have this, the better for you to be able to be, some of you are already planning next year, I know that, but this may help with that. That's another thing I want to offer is I can stay after the 1 o'clock time for anybody that wants to stay and talk about ideas and things, and if you want to look at, hey, I'm planning this, what do you think, or whatever, I will stay as long as people want me afterward if you have questions and need stuff, so. Don't let the 1 o'clock time make you feel like you can't get what you need.
Slides available anywhere?
I will send them to you the second we are done. I'm going to send it to the people that are here and online first. Don't worry about them. They don't care anyway. They can't see it, they can't hear it, so. We love you, online people, and we're glad you're here. We would prefer to see your faces, but hey. All right. So I will, while you're listening to Miss Jana, because I read through her presentation, I'm excited for you. I will make up some charts that some of you specifically said you would be willing to talk about these, but if you didn't either participate in the survey or see these or anything, I'm going to put the topics around the room, and if you feel like you have something to share, I don't want presentations necessarily. Okay, we have overachiever here, Jana, but also what she's sharing makes sense to have in kind of a formatted layout. But if you have an idea or something you're doing, I don't care if reducing the stress of mentors takes 5 minutes. This is how we do it. Great. People love handouts. People don't love handouts. People want it electronically. People don't care. If you ever want handouts, send them to me, I'll copy them. I'll always post them unless they're, well, they can't be because they were created with public dollars, so it's open season. So I can post them I can send them all to you online if there's something, if there are examples of things people are using, except I will not send you the playbook. Can't have her playbook. You can have the process. Just in case you're wondering. Anyway, okay, I'll put those around the room. If any of you, if the date's going to deter people from doing this, make a note of that or come talk to me, all right? And I don't care if you sign up for multiples. If we don't have anybody else to do it, great. If we have a whole bunch, then if you've already done some, I'll say, thanks, let's look at it again next year, okay? We want to be equitable in our access to effective. All right, Jana, I asked her to talk about her program, Big Picture at Large. So right now you're going to drink through a fire hose of what they're doing in Washington District. So as you're listening to this, I want you to think about a few things. One, give yourself permission to say, it's okay that I'm not going to be able to do all of this. I love it all and wish I could. Give yourself permission to say, you know what, these are great ideas, and this just doesn't fit with the way we do things in our LEA. Give yourself permission to look for one or maybe two things that you can use, and not try and suck up the whole thing. I will send you her slides as well and anything that she uses, okay? So, adult learners, get out of this what's going to work for you. Don't overwhelm yourself. That's what I do. I take notes on everything I want to do at all. Don't do that to yourself, okay? Give yourself permission. This doesn't apply to me. Give yourself permission to say, I can only focus on one or two things. That's all I can do. Give yourself permission to take rapid notes and then go back and share it with someone else and say, okay, you do this, and you do this, and you do this, and you do this. All right, Miss Jana. You may not take offense to the fact that I'm going to go over and write on charts while I listen to you.
Can I hook this up?
You want your own hooked up?
Because then I can link to a couple of these docs.
Absolutely. Do you need to be charging?
Nope.
So, I will shut down my. I have the Washington Post pop up. I want to know who said what.
Yeah.
All right. So, open up your browser. Type in 10.
While we're doing this, I'm going to pass out this article for you. It's very short, but it's super fantastic. And yeah, thanks, dear. Everybody in this room is familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs. We've mentioned it probably 3 or 4 times today. And also, everybody in here is familiar with Bloom's taxonomy, which is our driving force when we were teachers. This gal, this writer, this article is a great correlation between Maslow's, Bloom's, and how they fit for us as mentors for teachers. I thought it was super great. And while we're getting set up, it's going to just take you 3 or 4 minutes to read it. If you could skim through it, got just a couple of quick questions for you. So go ahead and annotate it, write all over it. This is yours. We'll get a copy, the copy of this is in the PowerPoint that everybody online will be
Sending
getting
them
soon.
a link right now.
Got it?
Yep, I'm on
Thanks,
Google.
thanks so much, Cassidy.
Airwell's not letting me go.
It's okay, they just feel the.
I'm gonna pull mine up for now and I'm gonna try.
Done. If you'll just put your pencil down. As you get finished, you'll turn to your neighbors, your group, your people, and think about these questions here. Let's have you talk to your neighbor about these first, and then we'll get some sharing out. Not near a neighbor, then I'll want to talk to you.
Well, yeah, and I think that, this last paragraph.
Yeah.
And where it says they're, which is just definitely. So like, are just two, and sometimes like, Walla. Sure. And
I'm not following along though, so, yeah. Sure, oh, thank you, that's the highest compliment. Tell me. I'm just the lowly assistant.
Yeah, exactly.
I would like to
One of the things I started doing our monthly social teacher meetings, and it's a simple technique, but actually I started it, I think in October last school year, it wasn't my first week, it was October. But at the end of your surveys, I got some positive feedback, and it's just put a little. So she would stay with her.
Are you overwhelmed?
Desk. So when they come in and I've got the PowerPoint slide up there, it's just like, it's working on weighing most heavy. Write it down. So I'm good.
So in your, we can talk about this for longer for sure, because it's a great article, but here's what I'd like you to do in your group. Summarize it very quickly, or summarize what this has to do with mentoring in general. Somebody answer that. These two are very personal, right? We're probably not going to talk about that right now. But did this article change the way you think about mentoring in general? So pick somebody in your group to kind of speak for your group. Will you folks start us off?
Well, we actually, at the beginning of the year, we were invited to give a presentation to our administrators at their beginning of the year conference, and this was our focus. It was, mentor or Maslow, East Bloom, and we created a graphic that had like a shark type fish, and it said Maslow on it, and it was eating little fish that said Blooms and Hattie and on PLCs, because the relationship is so important. And so we had the Maslow triangle, and we talked about, what are some things of your new teacher's needs at each of these levels, and how can we meet them? Because the more likely we are to meet them, the more likely they are to soar and be able to help their kids with Blooms. So we appreciated this because it was just what we've been focusing on.
Let's ask that question. How many of you felt like this validated what you already believed and what you're already doing? It felt good, right? It felt good to read this and say, that's right. That's what we know. That's what we're trying to do already. I'm doing this first. I was going to do it last, but I'm doing this first because I'm going to show you some things that we're doing, and you're going to like it or not. You're going to choose it or not. You're going to use some things or not. But everybody's on the same page with this. Everybody in the room, every mentor, coordinator, everybody involved in coaching understands this for sure, which is we have to understand human beings first and make certain that some of these basic level needs are met before we move forward. Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to add one thing to that, and it goes right along with what you're saying to mentoring and coaching. There's kind of a conversation of are they the same? Are they different? Are they the same? Are they different? And that's one of the other things that we talked about in that beginning meeting, that we're kind of our ongoing conversation. It's almost like a Venn diagram where there's some are the same, but some are different. A mentor is the one that's more apt to find you at a tearful state at the end of the day and be able to address that. And a mentor's more apt to, show you where the restroom is and show you where to put your lunchbox. All those things that really are those bottom tiers of Maslow, but you really need those to feel safe and incorporated into a system. So we appreciate this, and we're going to use it, and it's been kind of fun to look at in light of what we've done this year with the same.
Awesome. And wouldn't we all agree also that all of us we're professional coaches. This is what we do in our work, but there are plenty of people who aren't called coaches or mentors who are going to help your new teachers or your struggling teachers. I mean, there's a whole group of them. So those questions are for you to think about and to look at. I'm going to go back up to the top here. And this conversation we've had leads right into what I've come to think about in terms of coaching in our district. Everybody's going to have different levels of coaching at their district. Everybody's going to have different configurations. This is what we have. We have district level coaches that are content area specific, right? We got math coach. We've got we call them, we're coordinators, right? I'm the secondary language arts coordinator. We've got an elementary literacy coordinator. We got a math coordinator. We got a science coordinator who also does health, PE, and social studies. So there's these district level people who are content specific, but they're coaches too. They could be coaches too. At every one of our buildings, we have a learning coach who is assigned to and paid for either full-time at an elementary school or a couple of 4 or 5 periods at a secondary school, depending on the amount of new teachers they have. If you've got 2 or 3 new teachers at your school, you're just going to get your 2 periods that are designated for coaching. You've got 19 new teachers, we've got to find some more money and get you some more time so you can support your new teachers. Those are our learning coaches that we call. That's what we call them. They're all contents and new and veteran teachers. In our district, we mentor all new teachers for 3 years, just like you folks do. But we also mentor or coach all veteran teachers who come into our district for 1 year. Because they're not new to teaching, but they're new to us. And we keep a close eye on them so that they don't fall in the cracks, and give them some time to learn how we do business in the Washington County School District. And then we do a lot of training right here in this area with our PLC teams. Because we find that veteran teachers for sure are more likely to take advice from and are more interested in what their peers say than maybe what their learning coach says. And they're making decisions collaboratively down here. They're talking about useful instructional strategies. They're doing common formative assessments together. They're looking at all their data together. These people might be underutilized. And we've decided to spend a little more time and effort meeting with specific teams and helping train people in coaching strategies so they can all help each other move forward. Like I said, every district's going to have slightly different configuration there, but that's what we do. In the summer, this is what we do for training for learning coaches. I think it's the last day of school, we bring everybody who's going to be a learning coach next year in, and we give them some pre-service work. We give them some articles to read. We talk about what their schedule might look like. So they're not sitting around all summer going, I wonder how this learning coach thing is going to work out. That's a long time to wait to get information. So we do a little summer kickoff. In the couple of weeks before school starts, we have a foundations in mentoring 2-day course that all new learning coaches are required to attend. Because some of them may have never been a coach in a school, and we need to give them the whole basics from the beginning on that. But then everybody, new and returning, comes to Learning Coach Academy, where it's a 1-day, we talk about everything we're going to do that year. And people start to, we match them with every new learning coach is matched with a returning learning coach, and that's their coaching buddy for the whole year. Kind of their first line of questions. And during the school year, we have Learning Coach Forum once a month. We separate it into elementary and secondary, elementary in the morning, secondary in the afternoon. Also once a month, 2 weeks later, we have a targeted coaching practice, which is where whatever we've taught in Learning Coach Forum, now you're going to go out and meet with your coaching buddy or with other learning coaches, and you're going to practice, model, and observe each other performing this thing that we taught in Learning Coach Forum. So we're in for Learning Coach Forum, we're at the district office, and then we're out at different schools. Maybe all the intermediate learning coaches are going to get together at somebody's school and perform or watch somebody model this new strategy that we learned here. That's kind of new. We've probably only been doing that for about a year, but it's been super useful. Here's where the differentiation is, right? We're going to talk to everybody about a couple things we think are important. Then people are going to decide what they need to work on, what they need help with. Maybe they know everything already about this one thing. They're going to go and study this other thing that they need help on with mentor coaches. And then, of course, once a month, somebody on my team goes and visits every learning coach to see how they're doing and what we can do to help them. Any questions? So everybody has a different structure. This is just our structure. One thing we've been working on all year long is this book right here, The Coaching Cycle. Based on this book, The Impact Cycle by Jim Knight. Of course, everybody knows Jim Knight and his incredible wealth of coaching knowledge. Yes, ma'am.
Not, but I'm curious, how many of you have seen and read this?
Fantastic. Right?
Maybe not this book, but would you be interested in doing a book study next year? Separate choice after the meeting or whatever. Okay. Sorry, I just was thinking about that. I'm so sorry, Jen. I wondered how many people, I haven't seen this yet.
Yeah, not at all. Not at all. This is fantastic. And it's, we went to his conference. We don't usually do that, but quite a few of us went down to his conference in Las Vegas. It's close to us. And we looked at each other like this. There it is, the missing information. So we got excited about it because it's so simple. And everybody's probably already doing a lot of these things in a row, but there were a couple of missing pieces for us. But the coaching cycle is so easy, right? We're going to identify what our teacher that we're working with needs. Actually, they're going to identify what they need. We're going to help them learn all about it and help them improve on that through observations and work. So here's how it goes. And the first step is key, right? We're going to help everybody identify their current reality. When you ask people to self-assess on their current reality, how does that often go? Does everybody have a clear picture of their actual current reality? Does every teacher have a clear picture of their reality? So we try to use self-reflection. We often observe people, but this video is key, right? Because everybody has an idea of what they look like or how they're doing or what they thought it would look like. But to see yourself on film is not good for me. Every time I see myself on film, I say this: Is That My Voice? Like Ismay, right? The llama movie. Is that my voice? Is that my voice? So anyway, defining our current reality, then we set a peers goal. This is it right in the book. Peers has got to be powerful, easy, emotionally compelling, reachable, and student focused. When I was mentored, I remember my wonderful learning coach coming in and saying, hey, brand new teacher, this is your second day in the building. What is it that you think you would like to work on to improve your practice? Well, I don't got no practice. Like, I don't even know. I don't even know how to answer that, right? So it's very difficult. We have coaches asking teachers to make goals about things they really don't even know what they don't know yet. So that is why we love these high leverage teaching strategies on our instructional playbook. We try to, the steps of learning are to model and observe things, create checklists on jointly agreed upon key teaching strategies, and then we glom them all together in this instructional playbook that I'm going to tell you about. And everything, the whole instructional playbook process is right out of this book I showed you earlier. And there's a sample instructional playbook in there. So you could use that if you wanted. But here's how we did it. We got 60 learning coaches in a room, not for 6 months. It took 6 months to revise it and do a bunch of work on it. But we got all of our learning coaches in for Learning Coach Forum. We used a lot of Post-it notes. We had everybody put 5 or 6 Post-it notes up of what they thought were the highest leverage teaching practices. If you were going to work with a new teacher and you wanted that new teacher to use the most high leverage teaching strategies, what would they be? And they put them up all over the walls. Got people together in smaller groups. We glommed those together in little areas. We did a lot of wrangling. We said things like, well, that's an interesting choice you've made, and here's what I'd like to say about that, or here's the one I chose. Everyone was very civil, but also people have, teachers, they have things they love that they're attached to, they're emotionally attached to. So if you can defend it, let's talk about it. We put all of our teaching strategies under one of these 4 categories. Content, formative assessment, actual instruction, or the learning environment. We determined all the high leverage teaching practices in each of these through a series of conversations and wrangling. Then the next thing you do is you create a table of contents, which is 1 page of collaboratively decided high leverage teaching practices. Why only 1 page? We're not going to write a book here. We're going to write a short document that people can follow. And there's a lot of great teaching strategies, but not all of them are high leverage. Let's pick our key ones that we want to focus on. If we can't get them on 1 page, we got to clarify. Then you create a 1-page summary for each of the teaching practices and a checklist that lines out each of those teaching practices with things in order. I'm going to show you what it looks like. Here's our table of contents. Our table of contents, right? The 4 things we talked about: content planning, formative assessment, instruction, and the learning environment. It all fits on 1 piece of paper. And then underneath each one of those things are some high-level strategies or highly effective strategies that we think every beginning teacher could look at or we could coach. So can you imagine a beginning teacher going all the way through the first 3 years of their teaching practice without hearing about understanding by design or backward design? That'd be a problem, right? So there's some things that we thought were key that we needed to get people on. Formative assessment. Instruction. So I'm just gonna show you what this one looks like. So it's one of the things on our table of contents. You open it up, and here's the one-page summary of that thing. And this is, we didn't make up any of this. It's straight out of this book. We just followed the instructions. But what we did was, in our little teams, we got together and we said to ourselves, in one sentence, what's a description of using discussion protocols? We looked up the Hattie information on that. What's the point of using discussion protocols in our class? How are they used by teachers? And how are they used by students? Those are the exact questions that are asked in this book. And he'll show you, Jim Knight. Jim Knight is all about giving everybody whatever they need. And not only is it all in his book, but it's also in videos. He's got videos that are free that you just click on and fantastic. But can you see, tell your neighbors right now what's useful about having a one-page summary of each of these high leverage things. Tell your neighbor. What is useful about having a one-page summary? Each of these things.
They'll read it, and you can also like scan. Oh, this isn't what I was. Oh, you are again. Oh, thank you. I just think that. So, what is that? First year, just created a description, and so I'm looking, where?
I get 150 new teachers every year.
They thought they would get.
It's really big. And anyway, that's why it's even more important to be very tight about what it is we're doing, right?
I think that's about 600.
Probably 6,000 students. Or St. George. Yeah. Well, it was 6,000 when I left yesterday. Then it was 6,500 today. Hey, what did you think? What's useful about having this one-page summary? Does anybody have an idea? Yes, ma'am.
Well, it's not overwhelming or intimidating. You're gonna take a look at it, and before you get too deep into some article and think, this isn't even what I'm looking for, it gives you an idea and a summary so that you can, like, you don't know what you don't know, right? But okay, this sounds what I need.
This sounds like it might be useful. Oh, this is the definition of it? Great. Oh, look at the Hattie. Look at the Hattie work on this. He's already talked about this. It looks like it's got great effect sizes. What's the point of it? Awesome. How will I use it as a teacher, and how will my students use it? I mean, these are questions that everybody ought to be able to answer about every teaching strategy they're using right now. And if the answers aren't good, then you should not use that strategy. You should find something that's more effective, more high leverage. So that's the first part of this, right? Well, first of all, the table of contents, the fight, the slugfest. What are we going to put on our table of contents? Secondly, this one-page summary, and you cannot believe the wordsmithing that went on this. Somebody would write a paragraph and you can't imagine. You're all nodding your heads like crazy. And that's exactly what happened to us also. And then, after that, at the end of the one-page summary, we've got some examples, and then here's the checklist. And we built all these checklists ourselves. We said to ourselves, what do we need to be certain that we're including in each of these strategies? Because what do teachers do? We just move, it's all in our head already. We just move forward to the implementation of it. A new teacher wouldn't have all of that information in their head. You do, I do, we do, but maybe our new teacher doesn't have the years of experience and background, so let's lay it out. Let's line out exactly what we think student discourse looks like. This stuff. Here's how a teacher could plan for this. Here's a checklist of how a brand new teacher could plan ahead for using discussion strategies in their classroom. Checklist on how to improve your classroom discussions. So, I'm certain that everybody in this room could walk into any classroom and bust any of this out. But our new teachers can't. And this whole checklist idea was invented by a physician. He found that in the hospital he worked in, little mistakes cost big. A missed step in a procedure not only cost money, but lives. And it was unacceptable to him. So he started making checklists for every single procedure. And new and veteran doctors in his hospital had to follow these checklists. So that's where the theory of using a checklist came into play. And we love them. What else we got? We've added, on this one, we've added a document that helps these are all different strategies that people could use if they wanted. So it's not just about things that we're going to create, but other documents that we could find someplace and lay it in there to help folks. So, any questions on this? Any questions on the general format of an instructional playbook? What are the three pieces? Table of contents, where you identify these high leverage things, one-page summary, and then the checklist. And as Jeannie said, it'd be easy for me just to share both of our elementary and secondary playbooks with you, but then you would not have the fantastic, beneficial experience of slugging it out with your people, which needs to happen to get us all on the same page and to give us clarity about what's important to us. Here, then here.
Could you share one page just so I can? I don't need the whole page.
Especially our smaller people that are one or.
I just met with, so you're asking everybody right now. Are you asking me or everybody? Because I'm happy to do that.
Yeah.
And if people are interested in that, we could do that for sure. We'll all have a copy of our book with us. And we'll all talk about how we want to set out our process if we want to. And especially for our smaller LEAs, they could come away with a possible table of contents or a beginning table of contents, a bunch of one-page summaries, and beginning checklists.
Yeah, we would make it a meeting.
Let's schedule that right now.
Yeah, I'm open to that for sure. I'll bring my team members up and we'll knock it out. Yes, ma'am.
I was up at the U yesterday, and I know that the USB has their list of high leverage strategies, right? So I'm sure they're
Let's use that list.
similar. And
Somebody's done that list already. Let's use it.
Wise, especially for the smaller LEAs, use what the state is going to be supporting for the next 2 or 3 years. We're only going to do 4 or 5 at a time, but that's a good thing to think about as far as the high leverage practices.
Already been made. And I'm certain with a large group of people that have collaboratively decided on those. Let's use it.
We started with 80.
So, yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
Does anybody ever say to you, your work, or this is different work than the?
So did you yes, they say a lot of things. And that is one thing they say, but one thing we try to do, and did you, oh, you can see it right here. This, we've connected everything we're doing to the Utah Effective Teaching Standards, or the Utah. And we're, well, I know because you're in this room that you're going to do more than the minimum in every situation. And who knows what teachers are gonna need? Maybe some of our new teachers are super good at this. That's cool. They'll look at the table of contents and they'll see something else in there that is an area that they really need work on. So instead of just saying to the new teacher in the building, hi, what do you think? Out of all the things you know about teaching, what do you think is your biggest area of growth? You'll say, hey, here's this fantastic table of contents that our team has put together, that we worked really hard on. Is there something in here that you think, if you learned it and became better at it, would be more useful for your students?
Yeah, and those USBE high leverage strategies, they're not explicitly connected, but you can see where they fit in UX. So
For sure.
yeah,
For sure they'd fit.
Crosswalk would be kind of a
That's what-
natural outcome of.
already done from the state. But anyway, yes.
So maybe we'll do it.
That crosswalk, yeah.
Maybe we'll do it. So, yes, ma'am.
Timeline for your district to complete this, like how many meetings, how?
I'm gonna say it was probably 6 major monthly sessions. Because once we decided these 4 areas, and then we sorted our best teaching practices into each one of these areas, you and a partner took one of those and you started writing the 1-page summary, started writing the checklist. Then you shushed it over to a couple of other people for revision, you checked it out. Then we had some key people come in and kind of clean them up. So I'm gonna say 6 months worth of work. But
People, are they your district people or your consultants you brought in?
nope, our district people are smarter than all consultants. So it's just kind of our lead learning coaches that came in and did that cleanup, that clarification. So, the benefit of this is this. You don't have to reinvent the fantastic wheel of learning coach work every single year. I don't know about you guys, but we run through learning coaches like crazy, especially in our secondary, because sometimes principals pick learning coaches because of how scheduling and FTEs work, not because they're the best mentors or the best coaches. And this is what we have. This is what we have to work with. So let's make certain that our learning coaches have the most streamlined, clear job to do. This is the playbook that you're going to use. Considered getting those football sweatband things with the flip up. You know how the guy's in the huddle and he flips it up and he goes like this and he calls a play? We almost bought those. I had my finger on it. Anyway, because that's what this is. If I observe your classroom and you're doing a bunch of great things but there was no student conversation, I'm going to flip up my fake playbook or pull it up on my Google Drive and say to you, everything looks so great today. Have you considered adding more student discussion in your classroom? Yes, I've been wanting to do that. Fantastic. Here is a checklist. Here's a 1-page summary on it. What can I do to assist you? What would you like me to do while I help you? Blah, blah, blah. So that's how it goes. Question? What else we got here? These were the 4 areas that Jim Knight and his team suggested. But we'll look at this list that we might work with and see what areas we want to glom them into. We'll do anything we want, right? Because this is our work. That's the beauty of it, is everybody can decide what's best for them. What are the most high leverage teaching practices? We'll bring our Marzano book with the top 11. We'll have our Hattie page with us, and we'll decide from this giant list what we want to put in. We'll decide. We'll create a table of contents, 1 page of collaboratively decided high leverage teaching practices. When there's more than 1 page, what do people do? They just turn it off. It's too much, right? And, basically everybody in here could pick their 5 top things that they do every single day in their classroom that probably will work. All right, 1 page summary for each, checklist that lines it out. And then we're just in the cycle. We've identified people's current reality. We're learning about it through our instructional playbook. And now we're just watching ourselves improve, going the correct direction, progressing incrementally, improvements along the way, and our actions are correct. You say you want your students to participate in more classroom discussions, but you didn't take the time as a teacher to craft DOK 4-level questions. Your actions need to change before your student behavior can change, right? Just competing. What if I got really good? What if my learning coach came and visited me and I got really good at student discussions in my class over a period of a month? Do I gotta wait till my mid-year review to think of a new goal? Of course not. It's all individualized. I can move right on right now. And I can flip through the playbook and say, hey, this looks like a really great strategy that I need to get better at. You're just on to the next one. Now it's teacher-driven instead of mentor-driven. They're gonna look through it and say something to you, and you're gonna say, that sounds fantastic. What do you want to get good at? Well, I was looking at this in the playbook. That's wonderful. What can I do to assist you? Well, I'd like you to observe me twice, reflect with me afterwards, blah, blah, blah. They're in charge of that. All right, we talked about this article already. We discussed, okay, let's discuss this now. These are the same questions about the article. But what about this playbook? How does this playbook information change the way you think about mentoring in general? Tell your neighbor. Tell your neighbor. Tell this guy. %. Totally did not even do anything the same. Was half an elementary one and a secondary one.
Table of contents even?
Even.
So to 2 playbooks.
We talked, we did collaborate and see if there was anything over here we wanted to use. But no, but hardly no.
Right, so.
Do they include a lot of the same practices? Obviously,
Kind of.
the implementation
A few.
looks different.
A few.
They're different. Okay.
I do have like some of the.
They do. And I don't know about how you guys do it, but our elementary coaches are full-time and many of them have been there for 6, 7, 8 years.
Yes.
But our secondary coaches roll over like crazy.
That's 100%.
So we have to
You
have
have the
it more
same.
clear for those folks.
Yeah.
More clarity for secondary.
Because you can say to every elementary coach, make certain that all your people are doing guided, the Dolch words and guided reading practice. And all the secondary people will go, we don't even know what that is.
Yeah.
At all. Yeah. Every learning coach has the link and it's the coach does. They have any too. But we don't print it out. This is a good question. I'm gonna tell everybody. Are exactly the same, 1 through 10, except the UX are just the description of it for the UX is just a bunch of information. The Utah is how I do that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we've had a couple of good questions that I think I just want to throw out to everybody. One question was, and I mentioned it very briefly, do you have a common K through 12 instructional playbook or an elementary and a secondary? I have an elementary and we have a secondary. Are they the same? Not at all. Do some of the elementary strategies show up in secondary? Maybe. Do some of the secondary strategies show up in elementary? Maybe, but probably less, right? Good teaching is good teaching, but it's going to look different, and things are going to be key in an elementary setting where, like for instance, all of the reading strategies. None of those, some of those, maybe one of those are going to move over here into secondary. First of all, it's not in our core. Second of all, I'm teaching content. Third of all, I expected you to get to 9th grade learning how to read already. And no secondary teacher has been trained on reading instruction, sadly. Okay, so that's the case. The elementary folks were excited about their things, and they worked really hard on those. They knew that all of their elementary teachers would need these things. The secondary folks had this different list. Some of them overlap. But again, our secondary learning coaches are in for a year, maybe a couple of years at the most, then they're out. It was even more important to have a super tightly focused secondary learning instruction for us. And then what were we talking about? Oh yeah. When on our page, when I have UTAUT standard, sometimes we just use everybody, do you know what these UTAUT standards are? The UETs, the Utah Effective Teaching Standards, are 1 through 10. And we all know those, and we all teach them, and we've all got a copy of them under our pillow at night. It's very important. But we never even talk about the UETs anymore. We just use the UTAUT.
UTAUT is the actual evaluation, the model evaluation tool that the state put together.
And why the UTAUT is more useful to us than UETs is it has these standards broken down of actual teacher actions. What are teachers actually doing?
Skills.
The skills, baby.
And they can also be measured. They're
Measurable
demonstrable, so they
instead
can
of
be measured.
theoretical. Instead of just a definition, they're demonstratable, measurable actions. So that's why we use the UTAUT. On a tangential note, I created UTAUT standards 1 through 10 for language arts teachers specifically. And then my friend did it for all the math teachers. If a principal came into your classroom as an English teacher, what could they expect to see in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10? So what are our teachers being evaluated on? The Utah Effective Teaching Standards. How? By using the UTAUT. What is our job? I think our job is to train and let our teachers not only understand these, but model these and work on them to improve their practice in them in the first 3 years of their careers. Okay. Any other questions for me?
And you were gonna share with everybody when they see this link, like when they actually get the link. When can you just actually get this link?
So all the learning coaches will get this link at their learning coach training in the summer. And then, so here's how we do it. When I meet with you as a brand new teacher in the first weeks of school, you and I open a Google file together. It has your name on it and it has a bunch of stuff in it. One of the things it has in it is the instructional playbook. It also has a self-assessment. It has an individual learning plan doc. It has a mid-year review doc. It has an end-of-year review doc already in the file. You own it. I own it. And if you wanted to, you could let your principal own it. Share on there to see what it is you're working on. So you're free as a new teacher to see the docs that you and I work on together, that we have a meeting and we're doing a collaborative assessment log. I'm typing, you're typing, we're both looking at it together. And we sit together and pull up this instructional playbook. And you scan through the table of contents and we have a conversation together about what are these things that now that you've done your self-assessment, what are some things that you think you might want to work on this year? We'll type them up in your ILP, your individual learning plan. So everything's housed in a Google Drive, Google folder. And at the end of the year, when your principal is going to evaluate you, you can say to her, hey, I'm going to share my Google file with you so you can see about all the cool things I've done this year. I know you were in my class a couple of times and saw some good work, and that's fantastic. But here's a bunch of stuff that the learning coach and I worked on together. Because observations, administrative evaluations are what? 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour, maybe. Maybe it's the only time they've been in your classroom all year. Some of our big schools, it's hard. This is just another source of fantastic information to show your growth in certain areas. Does that answer your question? Is that okay? What else? It's UTOT 4.0.
You use it in Alpine.
We don't even use, of course we know the UETs, we look at them kind of, but we mainly use this UTOT. And so if you type in your search bar UTOT 4.0.
It's now 4.1.
Now 4.1?
According to who?
I've got a computer.
Is that what it says?
4.1, but he
Jeannie's all, well, that's my job, so I don't know how that got there.
It said it was implemented on June of 2016 is what it says. Utah State Board of Education, 2016.
I feel like we always just use the 4.0, but I'm sure they changed a semicolon and had to reprint it. So anyway.
You guys use Observer tab? That is UTOT.
But I wanted just to see it in this format. Thank you.
Gotcha. All right.
And we kind of, like everything in education, we use things interchangeably, right? UX, UTOT. Okay. I'll just wrap up by asking you to talk with your neighbors about one final question. What's the value? What's the value of an instructional playbook? I think it's valuable. Yes or no? And what's the value of it?
Yes.
it's valuable.
And
This is one step.
and it's an observation tool.
We have some.
And with the new rules coming out,
Okay, let's just get a couple of statements about the value of this. Alpine, what's the value of having an instructional playbook?
I just love it because it's not just your opinion. I'm all about data, so don't tell me if you like the strategy, show me that it works.
That's right. Nice. Uinta and Cash. Uinta, what do you think?
So we're like starting down the road on this process, and for us, it's all about like we're doing lots of video. So you sit with the teacher, you look at the video, you set a goal, and then you can.
And is it something that you think is right, that you made up? It's this huge group of minds, of our best and brightest people that made up this fantastic work over a period of time. So it's easy for you to pitch it. It's easy for you to say, here's what our learning coaches have thought that might be most useful. What did you guys say? The value.
About Twilla.
we said lots of things, but one of the biggest one is just having skills available. Because a lot of times they want to fix it, or we want to help them fix it, but want to start.
Did you have 15 hours to spend with every one of your new teachers this year at the beginning of school? Nobody does, right? So we are often just putting out fires or finding the most egregious problem and trying to get in front of that. Here's a way to have a ton of information available at their fingertips, ready to go. What else did you guys say?
I liked how it can help new teachers prioritize where they can get the biggest bang for their buck.
Nice. I had a new teacher say to me, I feel like if I could teach poetry in a more useful way that my students would really benefit. And I said, you did? That's what you thought? I didn't say that, but because I had my coaching hat on, I said, that's fantastic. Let's talk about why that's true. Right? Because she loved poetry. But that may or may not be the most useful thing. But these are. What else did you guys have?
I like that you guys, lots of people building it. It wasn't just like district people. So that way you had so much more buy-in for people. Because I think when it's distributed out like that, that you get that support from the schools. And
Ryan, ask you this too. Do you have any learning coaches in your schools that are super strong-willed personalities and super opinionated? Yes. Yeah, of course. Duh. Have you met me? Have you met me? I mean, really? And this gets rid of that, right? Because now we've got a ton of different choices that may not be just that one person's favorite back pocket strategy, right? Awesome. Anything else over here? Have we talked about things? Enough?
We loved it.
Great.
All right, so from the chat room, positive comments all around. They like that it's teacher-driven. That's from Cami and Nebo. Playbooks make it easy to help the teacher know exactly what it should look like in the classroom, gives them more tools, like you said, multiple tools to drive their own learning. And Early Light Academy says it gives directions, but without reading a 200-page book for one nugget of information that can be used the next day in the classroom.
Nobody has time for that. Yeah. Let's put it in a bulleted list. Let's put it in a checklist form. Let's print it off. Let's keep it in our desk. Let's check things off as we go down. Okay, I did this. Fantastic. Now I got to do this. All right. It's very reassuring. It's very confidence building. So it sounds like we're going to try to get together with all of us and put one of these together as a way to learn the process of it and maybe flesh out some of these other strategies that we've already talked about. But you can see that it's not rocket science, it's collaborative science. It's a way to make our jobs not only easier, but better, more clear, more focused, more streamlined, and accessible to everybody here and then here.
So there's a research element here too. You know, part of your thing made reference to Hattie's work, and I don't think everybody understands the power of his work. And there's lots of things that we like to do, and there's lots of things that are effective. But if I could do the 10 most effective things, I better know Hattie's work. I need to know what the literature says is the most powerful
Exactly.
of the tools that I have.
If the thing I'm doing in my class every day isn't more than a 0.40 effect size, why am I doing it? Why am I not doing everything that's a 1.5 effect size? Or if you're I already said his name earlier, now I can't say it, it starts with an M. Marzano fan, which I am. If you're a Marzano fan, why aren't you doing the 11 things he says are key and highly effective? Why are you not doing those things? And if you had a brand new learning coach march in, like we do all day long at the beginning of every year, we get 10, 12 new secondary learning coaches who have been basketball coaches for 5 years. These fantastic, wonderful people might not have all the research available to them. They haven't had a chance to look at it. Let's spend 5 minutes on it. Let's make sure we understand it, believe it, and then use it.
Is a huge, have to do it correctly, or
it's actually a problem.
Yes.
Exactly.
So it's not just about doing it, but doing it.
Follow the checklist, brother. Did you have a question?
It kind of related to what you said. Even if it's not a coach or someone filling an FTE, instructional coaches that start in coaching are often, you're already thought of as an expert sometimes. And they're coming maybe straight from a classroom or whatever situation, and they don't necessarily have all the tools or know everything. And so when they have this playbook and they're all kind of on the same page, they're all delivering the same high leverage strategies, it's just better across the board.
Exactly. And look how easy our learning coach forums are now. We're going to pick up 3 or 4 of these every time. We're going to have somebody who's very good at it model it for the group. Everyone who's learning it is going to practice it with their coaching buddy right now. When you leave here, you're going to understand 3 or 4 important high leverage teaching strategies that you can coach with whatever teacher you're working with.
We've been talking about, similar things in our district. And one of the things that I would love to add to this is on your, videos of your own teachers demonstrating these strategies where they can click on and watch. I mean, there's videos out there, but we've been talking in our district about how powerful it is. We know we have teachers out there that can do these things.
For sure.
Do video segments and have them linked in so they can watch that way.
The power of video, of course, is underutilized. If you were a professional athlete, you would have been filming yourself and your progress since you were 7 years old. And what does everybody do after the game? They watch film, right? Because that's where there's no talking your way out of that or cheating that. It's right here. We're all looking at it together. So we've started to videotape some of our best teachers doing some of these things. And it's super easy for a new teacher to open up the instructional playbook, click on that video, and watch Mrs. Jones at Washington Elementary kill this idea over here. It's fantastic. So, I'm going to stop talking because it's almost noon. But how do we support struggling mentors? By making their job easier, by giving them an instructional playbook. How do we feed their needs? By training them on these strategies in the instructional playbook. How do we match them with mentees for a mutually beneficial experience? Well, they don't get that choice all the time, right? They're the teacher at this school. These are their people. But everybody can benefit because we've got this fantastic document that people are choosing what they want to work on. If they're a second-year teacher, they can make those decisions based on their SGP data from last year. They can look right at their score and say, I had low growth in this area. Or, I'm a new teacher, I got a bunch of kids that had low growth in this area. Let me look through the playbook right now and pick this high leverage strategy that's going to help me. Right? All the training, all the resources. People don't need therapy if they're already feeling good about their job. When do people need therapy? When they don't understand the expectations and can't meet them.
Those are the questions I asked her to answer
Right?
today, so.
When people know the expectations and have a way to meet those expectations, they're feeling good. Right? They're not unsure of themselves or how the world's gonna work at all. They're gonna handle it. And anything we do differently for brand new mentors, everybody gets the same training once the school year starts. In the summer, we have some extra training for brand new mentors. Any other questions?
60 that you have, how are they divided up?
30 elementary and 27 secondary.
And then are they assigned to a school or a certain?
They're all assigned to their own school.
You have 60 schools or?
We have 50 schools. Some of our schools have 2 learning coaches because they've got so many people and weird FTE up to principals.
You just have coaches or you have coaches and mentors?
Our coaches are our mentors. I use those terms interchangeably. Although I know we could have a fantastic conversation for a long time about the Venn diagram of that. But we just use them interchangeably. Okay, fantastic, thank you. Thank you.
So while I'm hooking up, I have to go change that because it is so crooked. The next 2 dates of our meetings are up there, and the topics that you all kind of put up as what's important. Thank you. So the black is the big picture question, or idea underneath. Kind of, well, it was a purple marker, but it comes out pink. Are kind of the subtopics, like differentiated. Mentoring, is that for your SPED? Is it for counselors? Is it for the years of experience or grade level? And then other, some of the other, we've got reducing stress for beginning teachers. Now, examples of induction programs. This was kind of a big picture induction program, but it also kind of narrowed it into one of the pieces that they do. I was talking with Robert in the back. He has his big picture layout of what his coaching looks like, his mentoring program looks like. And so I put his name under there. But if you have big picture that you'd like to share, or if there are pieces and parts and portions of what you do that you'd like to share, put it on there. You can write with a pencil. I was just using marker for Robert just so he'd stand out. For the 12th, they have training for mentors, whatever it is that you're doing for them, anything about that training. Combining them, do you combine? How do you do that? What if you have multiple beginning teachers? How do you manage that if you have more than one? And then what if you have mentors that are also full-time teachers? How do they make that work? If you have anything different than these that you would really like to share this year, send me an email and let me know. I do have your, for those of you that had the opportunity to fill out the, bless you, survey. I do have some things on there that you said that you would be willing to share. The other part of this is Janet and I will get together with some possible dates of when we can get the Washington crew in the Salt Lake area. I have to schedule this room about 1.5 years in advance, so no way, unless we have it on some odd weird circumstance. So most likely will be in public safety building or something, but it'll be somewhere here, Central Salt Lake. Excuse me. But we'll invite, everybody that's on our mentor coordinator list, and if you want to bring, we'll have to keep it into kind of smaller teams possibly to kind of get the structure. If you are a lone LEA, small, whether you're a small district or charter or whatever, if you want to kind of get together in groups and talk through it together and get, big picture layout, we can do that. or if you have a couple people you want to bring with you, I'm cool with that. We'll work out those details as we get there. I will buy that book for everybody that's attending. What is it called?
Impact cycle.
Impact Cycle, thank you. I don't even have that, so I'll buy one for myself too. And so I'll have that, and Jana can let me know if they should pre-read some parts of it, or if just refer to it, or if it's just going to be a nice resource. Then we will also, I will send out ahead of time the high leverage practices and ones that are decided that the state's going to focus on this year to support. Doesn't mean you can, the others are off the table. Doesn't mean that those are the only things that you do. It's just those are something that we're going to be focusing on for the next few years, and we'll support a few at a time. And I'll send you any resources I have hopefully ahead of time, so that if you want to consider that in building that work, that is what you are still. Incredible opportunity, and I'm grateful. Volunteering her team to come up here. Actually, there's something in the water in Washington District. Are crazy. When I went around and did rater certification in schools, they would bring groups of them to different sessions. They would do study sessions at night after we had trained all day long. Others were just glad to get out. They'd walk out and they were zombies. They just wanted. Oh no, not the Washington District people. They had their coolers
All
of
the
food,
sunshine they
kept
get.
going, and then they
have extra vitamin D.
It's crazy. Absolutely crazy. Anyway, lots of energy, lots of good ideas, but you all have amazing ideas, and I think as we start to share things, we may develop some more things that come up that we can do moving forward. That was one of a comment that was common was let's do something we can do.
I have a question.
Yes.
I really like that idea because that's what I find I'm doing is the mentoring and coaching is merging. Is that a trend or is there an official stance that they're separated? They're two separate.
I will tell you that nationally, it's done both ways. I will tell you our personal superintendents, and that there's a mentor, or that there's a continuum of support, and those are two separate things. Mentoring and coaching are two separate roles. And I think it might have been even Jana that mentioned that mentoring, more of that beginning, helping them get their wet and those basics. And your coach is when they're really ready to start improving their practice, and that's when we're getting into the students, and and I'm in full agreement with our superintendent. That's the way I work as well, and that's why the new rule is called new teacher induction. Induction includes all of it with the that's our superintendent. And so that's who I follow, but I was already there before but that's where she was. But your leaders in your LEAs can choose to do it however they wish.
So we have that freedom to do that.
If you want to consider them the same thing, if you want to call them the same thing, that's perfectly fine. We do have an upcoming instructional coach endorsement that I will be doing separate from teacher leader. And there will be a teacher leader. I'll be pulling ideas and things from your brains to go on that, but we're not going to go there right now. If you're tired, you're going to fall asleep, and I need to stay awake for the drive home. So, that's all I have for today. Watch for an email once I have dates. I'll send out like a doodle poll and see how, where we can get the most people. But we're coming up to closing the year out already, yikes, as far as that type of thing. So just top of your head response. Are you wanting this, after our winter break, getting it in quickly? Are you wanting summer? Are you wanting, I would imagine the end of the year is kind of questionable, kind of like the beginning of the year. I don't know. Top of your heads, what are you thinking?
I would want it sooner than later myself.
Sooner than later, okay. Are you antsy and ready to go if we did
January is the deadest month. We should do it in January.
I already have the mentor model that I have had to fight. Seriously, it has taken me 4 months to get a memo approved to move forward that. But we're gonna do it in 5 days, so we'll make up the difference. And I have names for those of you that are interested, and those that didn't know what it was, I'll let you know what it is. All right. Groovy, good to go? Parting shots? Questions, concerns? All right. Thank you all for being here. I appreciate all you do. Thank you for spending time to be here. We'll try our new layout next month. And if you get a minute on your way out the door, if you would put your name, if there's something up there you feel comfortable telling us about. Remember, 5 minutes. Hey, by the way, here's a handout that we use. Great. If you want something like Jana did, great. Tell me how much time you want. Drive careful, everybody. Take care and don't get sick.